This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you for the next hour, a couple hours plus. And we have a lot to get to today. We will have the latest goings-on, or not goings-on, as it were, in the middle of summer in the National Hockey League. We'll check in with our pal Dennis Bernstein. But I did want to bring Connor on with us to dive into a little bit more on the Jets prospects rankings, which he put together. Now, those videos are live on YouTube, 6 to 10 and 1 to 5. We'll discuss some of the thoughts from Connor, our rankings as well, after Dennis joins us. Now, we're going to get to the Bombers. Mike O'Shea spoke earlier, coming up in a few minutes. Josh Frey-Sam is going to join us post-Bombers practice today to let us know how things are looking heading into this big game against the Toronto Argonauts for Winnipeg, trying to snap his losing streak at 2 and get back into the win column and a little closer to the 5-1 Stamps and 5-1 Rough Riders in the CFL West. We're going to do a great, listen, I think I mentioned this yesterday on the program, but Breezy Ben's Braxton Kuntz, the most decorated amateur golfer in Manitoba history, won 4 straight amateurs, didn't participate this year because he was elsewhere playing. He just qualified for the U.S. Amateur by shooting 5 under in the final round in Kansas City earlier this week, and he is going to be heading to the Olympic Club to play in the U.S. Am in August before potentially turning pro at his home course of Breezy Bend later on next month at the Manitoba Open. And of course, in between that, he's going to represent Manitoba at the Canadian Amateur, where he finished 3rd last year. So we're going to catch up with Braxton Kuntz. Josh Frey-Sam's going to join us from Bomber practice, and JBM will join us, Jake Bolin Moss. We'll talk some Jays with Jake, and we certainly are going to have to give a little love to our buddy Adam Svensson, of course, another partner of Coolbet, who shot a 60 today at TPC Twin Cities, eagling the 18th, going out in 30, in 30, 11 under par. So I know Jake will want to get to that. So we'll do that a little later on in the program. But right off the bat, it's been a crazy week for kind of celebrity deaths. We had Ozzy Osbourne earlier this week. It was Theo Huxtable, Malcolm Joel Warner. And then today we got, I think, what seemed as pretty shocking news that wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has passed away at the age of 71. So that has obviously been taking over quite a bit of the timeline as we get into the show. The other big bit of news, which we have been following and will continue to follow, is the verdict from the Hockey Canada World Junior Trials, where 5 members of the 2018 team were on trial for sexual assault. So that coming out throughout the day in London as well, and we'll be on top of that. But lots to get to. Huge win last night for the Jays against the Yankees. They're back to 4 up in the AL East. And, some non-sports things, or non-on-the-field things, obviously, with Hockey Canada. And then I know Remis is going to want to touch on Hulk Hogan as well, and everyone is already doing it in the chat. Welcome to everyone that's with us, by the way. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And just before we bring in Michael, I do want to thank the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Our partners at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, of course, Manitoba Battery, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club, and Rollies Transfer, F Apparel, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, the Gold Eyes, who are back this weekend, kicking off, or actually back tonight, kicking off another homestand Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend. We'll do a why not question of the day, and we will get fan feedback from all of you, courtesy of our friends at fansfirst.ca. Michael Remis, crazy morning. Hulk Hogan, gone at 71. I know you're a Hulkamaniac.
Yeah, I don't know if I was shocked. There were reports coming out earlier this week that his health was declining, but I don't think I saw this one coming. As far as celebrity deaths go, I mean, it's a huge one. He's an icon, put wrestling on the map in pop culture, went on to do movies as well. He also had a reality TV show starring his family in the mid-2000s. Crazy. I mean, complete icon. I think, you saw tributes pouring in from Ric Flair, Kevin Nash, who Dave Meltzer, put in the most popular wrestler of all time. I mean, bar none, sold out stadiums before anyone else did. WrestleManias, you can go on and on. I know there's obviously some controversy outside of the ring, but as far as in-ring performer, one of the greatest to ever do it. So,
I don't think there's any doubt that he's the most influential professional wrestler of all time. In that Hogan, and listen, if you are, say 50 or older, you may have remembered, if you were into wrestling, as a kid, like 5, 6, 7, watching the AWA back in the day, you may remember seeing Hulk Hogan for the first time. I think for most of us, when he moved to the WWF in the 80s, and really was the catalyst for the explosion of the popularity of professional wrestling. I mean, there's two individuals that grew the game, if you will, more than any. One's Vince McMahon, the other's Hulk Hogan. But for Hogan as an in-ring performer was clearly the biggest star of all time at that moment. He was box office. He was the catalyst for the growth of WrestleMania and the explosion of the WWF. And he did that for an entire generation. And then Remo, later on in his career, had a renaissance as Hollywood Hogan of the NWO, which was arguably the biggest move from company to company in professional wrestling history, and something that put the WC on the map and ahead of WWE for, 83 weeks as number one, going head-to-head on Monday nights. And, I mean, yeah, there was some out-of-the-ring controversies, shall we say, that Hogan had, which I think sullied his public perception to some. It is somewhat sad, I think, when you think about what he meant to the WWE, that his final appearance on WWE television, if I'm not mistaken, was the debut of the WWE on Netflix in LA, where he was greeted with a very mixed response, to put it charitably. But just speaking about pro wrestling, it is synonymous with Hulk Hogan. And, as much as The Rock is huge and Stone Cold was massive, I'm not sure that any of that happens without Hulk Hogan coming beforehand. So a big, big loss, and a loss that, I think that no matter how old you are, unless you're just a very young person and didn't really catch any of Hulk Hogan's performances in the ring, this is a guy that everyone has memories about. And certainly as someone of my genre, I think back to being a little kid listening to the Rock and Wrestling album and Real American, and seeing Hogan come out and tell us to say our prayers and eat our vitamins. And there's not many figures in my childhood, frankly, that are bigger than the Hulkster.
Very well said, Huss. And yeah, how many things from Hulk Hogan you take that still today, like who's going around, Huss, putting their hand to their ear or doing his in-ring poses, or ripping the shirt with his however many inch pythons. He was part of pop culture. And just reading the chat, Dan Jets fan says, I'm not a wrestling fan, but he was well known, even some movies. And who can forget the great Suburban, Commando, my personal favorite, Mr. Nanny. He was in
Thunderlips.
He was in some good ones. So, and that, you didn't really see wrestlers go into movies. And I think it certainly did pave the way for The Rock, who went into movie career. Although Dave Bautista has been more serious actor. lately, but 71 years old. Sounds like he had cardiac arrest and called in, and I see a lot of great memories flowing in. Sad to see us another legend from our childhood, from pop culture, gone in the same week. I was still listening to Ozzy like in the car today. I'm not reading stories about him online.
You weren't ready for this today.
I wasn't prepared for this. The playlist is going to be fired up of Hogan matches. I know many focused on Hogan Rock WrestleMania 18, or
it was in Toronto, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. WrestleMania 3 against Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant. They sold out the Silverdome, biggest crowd of all time.
I remember renting the VHS tape of WrestleMania 7 against Ultimate Warrior with the 2 belts. That one, you had to rent the VHS. Then I would go. They had the best covers at the video store. So,
what a time that was! Rolling into Blockbuster and getting one of the WWE tapes and eating popcorn and getting together with your buddies on Friday night. Good times. It was a different time. We weren't worrying about as much as just young kids just wanting to live the good life, like the Hulkster and the Junkyard Dog and George the Animal Steel and all our favorites of the faces during the 80s of the rock and wrestling revolution.
Yeah, I mean, he had so many toys as well. Had the Hulk Hogan action figure. I mean, made bandanas popular. Us
Coliseum video, Mike Wynn. That's right. All of those WWE tapes were from Coliseum video. I can still see the starts of those VHS tapes that we had. Listen, the other big story today, kind of moving from a celebrity death, is something that is still developing right now. But we are getting the verdict from the judge in the Hockey Canada sexual assault trial. Now, I don't believe the ruling has been made official. They're going through their findings right now. But the Justice Cariocia did not find the complainant EM's evidence, quote, credible or reliable. So I would be surprised based on that there is not an acquittal, but they're still going over the evidence as they deliver the ruling right now. I mean, we'll speak on this after everything is official, but the one thing that I want to say on this program today, and I say this as someone that worked for Hockey Canada before, it was incredibly distressing to see the way that organization was operating. And, it took something as ugly and disgusting as this case and the cover-up beforehand to finally get some changes in all of it. Now, I know the focus is on the 5 defendants today, and that is, I'm sure, what the stories will be tonight. But it is important to stay vigilant, I think, on the fact that our organizations that are taking taxpayer money, registration funds, are operating in the best interests of the sport. And to think that, there was an organized cover-up utilizing a Hockey Canada slush fund of millions of dollars to simply quickly and briskly pay off an accuser to make it go away with absolutely no discipline or repercussions for the individuals that were accused is one of the great disgraces in the history of Canadian sport, and I would say maybe even beyond Canadian sport in the society in my lifetime, that an organization so powerful, which should have the trust of millions with how big the sport is, was operating like that. And, obviously no one wanted to go. It took Parliament to create the resignations. And listen, I don't want to put the people that have taken over to clean up the mess in a bad spot, because I'm sure they know very clearly the way they need to proceed moving forward. But that Hockey Canada name has been sullied through this to such a great degree. I still am surprised that they didn't, frankly, do an entire rebrand of Hockey Canada, overall. But today we'll wait and we'll confirm for you when it is official, the ruling coming out of the Hockey Canada sexual assault trial. And of course, Remo, the big question right now, and I talked about this a little bit with Iwanek last week, or last show when I was on in Edmonton with the Lock Shop. If this trial was timely and this was happening and these guys were accused of this and potentially getting off in, say, 20 or 21, kind of closer to the Me Too movement, when, any sort of an accusation was, in a lot of times, ending individuals' careers, I would have said that there's zero chance that these guys, resuscitate their career. It kind of feels like in society, the pendulum swang one way and now it's coming back more to the middle. I am fascinated by if an acquittal does come for some or all of these players, what their futures are. Because, if you're accused of something and you're not guilty, you're certainly able to continue earning a living and doing it. The big question is whether NHL teams in particular will have the appetite of giving a second chance to individuals that have been involved in the activities that have been described in the court case. And I will say this, the climate is different in 2025 than it was even 2 or 3 years ago. And I would have said 2 years ago, there's good chance, like no chance that any of these guys play again. Certainly, I wouldn't be in support of my team, the Winnipeg Jets, going after one of these guys, but I do wonder if there isn't a second act for some of them, and I would not have been saying that a year or two ago.
Yeah, sometimes, Huss, for teams, winning trumps everything, and if one of these players, even after being inactive for a while, can help a team win, seems like they will be, they would have them on their team. So we'll wait and see what happens there, but you really hit the nail on the head there with everything you said about Hockey Canada. Well done, Hustler.
All right. So anyways, I just wanted to get that out right away because, as I said, one of the great, the things that I'm most proud of in my sort of media career was, working with Hockey Canada and putting on the World Women's Hockey Championship and being there with stars like Hayley Wickenheiser and Jennifer Botterill, real pioneers of women's hockey, and being part of what I still think is probably the greatest women's tournament that we've seen. The way that it was supported and embraced here in Winnipeg and in Selkirk, you just felt so much momentum going for women in the sport. And then 10 years after that, or 11 years after that, to have that happen, it's an absolute shame. And to many people, it was criminal by some of those people beforehand. So I hope that this doesn't just go away and everyone moves on, regardless of what happens with these 5 individuals, because this story and the legacy of this ugly, ugly era of Hockey Canada, I think, needs to be remembered, never repeated, and put in a position where we're in a much better place moving forward. All right, as I said, we're going to be talking some hockey coming up with Dennis Bernstein in a little bit, but we do have a little bit from Mike O'Shea. And we'll get to this right now, and then we'll get to Josh a little later on post-practice to see the latest from it. But the big question that I have, and I think everyone has, what's up with Stanley Bryant? And Mike O'Shea talked about Stanley Bryant's potential for the Toronto game a little earlier. Here's what the coach had to say.
What would you put your level of confidence at that Stan plays this week?
Well, yeah, I saw him moving around today. Pretty damn good.
Yep.
We'll see, though. Stan doesn't need to practice, right?
I was actually going to ask you that.
A lot of the vets do not need any practice to play.
Yeah. Even after just going off of that, even after it's going on 2 weeks here since.
A lot of guys,
you're okay.
He's played really well for a very long time. I don't think he needs any tune-up in terms of scheme or anything like that. And once again, unless he's cleared to play, he wouldn't be playing. And when Al clears somebody to play, it means they're ready to actually play. Not, we're ready to use them in certain situations, or they're ready to play.
All right, well, fingers crossed that Stanley Bryant will be out there. I couldn't help but think when we saw Zach Caleros leave the game on Friday after laying it all out to throw that pass to Nick Dembski and getting put flat on his back and hitting his head, that the likelihood of that happening goes down significantly if Big Stanley Bryant is out on the Bomber offensive line. Now, this is, of course, the first crack that the Bombers are getting at the Toronto Argonauts since last year's Grey Cup, and Nick Arbuckle, of course. Interesting to see how the Bombers feel about this. New season, new team, or is there anything left over? Well, Mike O'Shea was asked if there's any leftover emotion from the Grey Cup going into this weekend.
Yeah, it's so far in the rearview mirror.
I'll take that as a no, Remis.
Yeah, and the press conference ended pretty much right after that question.
Abruptly.
He gave a quick one-word answer and got out of there, and it did remind me a lot of this Dave Chappelle gif where he knocks the water off the table and runs out of the room. I don't know why, but that's what I thought of. And yeah, he doesn't want to talk about losing, the most recent of the 3 straight Grey Cups that they lost. Oh, just even saying that sentence, so painful. And we were just there watching it, not playing in it. But yes, this is the first matchup against Nick Arbuckle, who's actually among the league's passing leaders. Now, I know it's only a 9-team league, but hey, I was not giving Nick Arbuckle much credit for that win or coming into it, but there he is, he's third in passing behind Bo Levi and Vernon Adams Jr. So this is the first
big part of that is the fact that he's played.
Yes.
I mean, Caleros has missed time. Nathan Rourke has missed time. Davis Alexander's missed time. Ottawa's gone with 3 quarterbacks. I mean, he's basically there because he's been playing. But, after the first couple weeks, he has been better. And listen, they're 1-5, but they've been incredibly close in some games. I still can't believe they lost last week. So this is going to be tough. And listen, the Bombers, the way they played last week, I'm not sure if they're beating anybody that way. So it's a matter of being a lot better this week in every aspect. Jason Hogan spoke as well yesterday, and here's what the Bomber OC had to say about what they need to do to clean things up and be a much better outfit against the Argonauts.
Execution. It's the same message week to week. We got to be clean. That means taking better care of the football. Substitutions in and out of the huddle. We didn't have any issues there, but thought we could have just been cleaner overall. Assignment-wise. Day one stuff like that, just coming back to the ball. I think if we do that, I think we prove with both quarterbacks we can drive efficiently down the football field. And we got to put the nail in the coffin and score. Right? Points 6 are better than 3.
And what have you seen from Toronto's defense that you're watching on film?
I mean, they see, they execute well. I think they game plan well versus their opponent. You look at a team like Calgary who played, the same defense they played us against other opponents. I think Toronto does a great job, and that's not taking anything away from Calgary, but I think Toronto does a great job of game planning for your what you do offensively. So.
All right, nice pit vipers there on Hogan for the interview. Here's one more from the Bomber OC. Just asked how close is the offense in his mind to where he wants it to be?
I think it's where we want it to be. We just got to find a way to execute and finish. Again, we've driven the ball. You look at statistically the last 2 games, we got 400 offensive yards. We just got in the end zone with points. So, you take any football game, 400-plus yards is pretty darn good, in my opinion. Again, we just got to find a way to finish and clear the mental mistakes and just keep moving forward.
All right, so there's Bomber OC Jason Hogan. Also got to hear from Jordan Younger, who his defense got torched pretty good last week against the Calgary Stampeders, really the last 2 games against Calgary. Here's Younger on just his level of concern over the recent big plays allowed by the Bomber D.
Concerning in the sense that, that's always a focus of any good defense is to limit the big plays. So, attention to detail, understanding of opponent tendencies, understanding of our tendencies, right, what we're showing them. We're going to keep working at it.
Is that that's how you guys fix that? Because you guys, it feels like, I would assume you guys are doing everything you guys normally would do, right? And then it's just maybe not translating onto a game day?
Yeah, there's a couple new bodies out there and new places trying to work through things, trying to see things the same way. Again, some of it is just attention to detail, bringing the game plan to the game.
All right, so there's Jordan Younger, Bomber defensive coordinator. Here's one more from Younger. Planning for Toronto, just asked if it matters in their preparation as to whether they're going to be facing Nick Arbuckle or a potential return of Chad Kelly?
Does that
No,
factor in?
our focus is on us and cleaning up the mistakes we made. None of that other stuff matters until we can play a clean game.
Do you have any residual feelings about this being the first meeting with Toronto after last year?
Not at all, right? It's a whole new season. It's a whole new challenges, right? A long way to go. It's a regular season game, right? We just want to play well, play within the system, and make the plays when they come to us.
Were you the same as a player? You didn't care about wanting to give it to a team that gave it to you?
Maybe there was individual matchups I brought to the game, you know what I mean, where you wanted to, maybe if you had a rough showing against a guy, you wanted to play better the next time. I think that's natural for any competitor, but as far as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, it's 2025, right? That's all we can worry about. If we're carrying the weight of 2024 into this game, we're doing the wrong thing.
All right, so there's Jordan Younger. We'll have more on the Bombers' preparation for Toronto a little later on when our pal Josh Frey-Sam from the Winnipeg Free Press joins us in hour number 2 of the program. We're going to catch up with Dennis Bernstein and then dive into some Jets prospects with Connor Rabchak coming up over the next half hour plus on the program. Before we do that, though, continue to get great feedback from our customers who have dealt and made a move with our friends at Rolly's Transfer. Rolly's, of course, has been family-owned and operated and doing it here in Winnipeg for over 60 years and has become the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Of course, WST listeners have also taken advantage of a special discount on moving services and moving supplies by entering the promo code WST when you request an estimate over at Rolly's Transfer. Simply put in a WST and then let them know when and where you're moving and how much needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that Rolly's is famous for. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more, request an estimate today on your next move at Rollies.com. Big shout out to our friends at St. Vital Dental Center. Of course, Dr. Terry and the gang have been serving generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans and now have a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and, of course, free, convenient parking right behind the building. Serving customers of 6 months plus all the way to 99 plus. They've got it all from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. Whatever your dental needs, St. Vital Dental Center can take care of you. And speaking of great feedback, many WST listeners have popped in, have always had a great time and say nothing but great things about the service they've got at St. Vital Dental Center. So go to stvitaldental.ca for more on everything they can do for you and your family. You can book an appointment there or give them a holler and tell them hi from WST. Always love to hear that our WST listeners supporting our other great sponsors. And hey, we've got Dennis Bernstein coming up in just a minute. Another beautiful, hot summer weekend coming up. Now's a great time, if you haven't already, to head over to your Manitoba liquor marts and try the new Canadian Club coolers, the Club Pack. Every Bomber game was full of thousands of people enjoying the CC and ginger ale. Of course, Canadian Club is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But now they've added the Canadian Club Citrus Smash and the Canadian Club Half and Half to the Club Pack. Tried them all. Phenomenal. Very popular drinks at the Comedy Fest last week and at Super Spike. So when you get ready for the weekend, pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts, look for Canada's famous Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club, and try the new Club Pack available and waiting for you at your local Manitoba liquor mart. All right, we'll dive into the Jets offseason in a minute, but let's head down to beautiful Southern California right now and welcome in our guy Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period for a little summer check-in. Dennis, what's going on, pal? How are you?
Well, good, Hustler. There's not too many people I get off the grid for. You're one of them. I was off the grid for July, but when Winnipeg Sports Talk calls and you call, got to jump back on and talk some puck with you, bud.
Love it. Yeah, a little quiet time right now. I mean, the dust is sort of settled on free agency, but there still are a few unanswered questions. And in particular, I wanted to ask you about another team in your area, not the Kings, but sure, the Anaheim Ducks. We continue to hear, and maybe some of this is just fans and social media speculation, about a potential availability of Mason McTavish. You're close to that team. How would you describe his fit with the Anaheim Ducks and his long-term future there? And do you think that the Ducks are looking at potentially shaking things up a little bit more, including a top first rounder that has a pretty bright future and a unique package when it comes to centers?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Leo Carlson's their number one center. But Mason McTavish at his age is a great 2C. And you're talking about trading him now before Q gets a hold of him and really molds him into a player. And I get the narrative. They've lost a lot there, but last time I checked, Hustler, I think they improved by 21 points last year. 30-point team. They're not the San Jose Sharks. So I don't understand the narrative from a couple of different levels. The age, he's still a relatively cheap player. And if he's really downtrodden by losses, then he shouldn't be on the team. Like, it happens. I mean, you think Macklin Celebrini's been happy playing and losing almost every game in San Jose? No. It's something you have to overcome. But here's the thing, Hustler. The one thing this team needed was offense. So what did they win? They went out and got Chris Kreider, who I think he had a broken hand. He has a plate put in there now, whatever. You're going to trade a 2C? You better get back a 2C, because this team, the challenge was not defense. Their young defense is really good, especially that left side with all those three kids. Dostal is going to be there for a while. So I don't get the narrative, because this team's going to need scoring. And I think Mason McTavish is one of those players that could certainly help them.
Well, while we're talking about the center position and the Ducks, why do you think the team moved on from Trevor Zegras before getting Q in there? And what can we take away from the relative price that the Philadelphia Flyers paid for Zegras?
Well, you can see Trevor Zegras is not the same type of player that Mason McTavish is, right? Mason is a big, well, he's not that big, but he's physical. He's a grinder. And, Zegras is a complimentary player who plays on style. And so he wouldn't fit the vision of what Pat Verbeek is building in there. I don't think that, and you look at some of the goals he scored, and they were really highlight reel goals, and his lack of celebration. I know some people don't, it doesn't carry much weight with that. Just didn't look happy there. So I'm not sure that McTavish is unhappy there, but certainly Zegras needed a change of scenery. And he's going to get one with Tocchet and Philly. He's going to be on the top power play. So I think it was a smart move to move him out, because he just didn't look like he wasn't buying into the program that the Ducks were building there. So I understand that. With respect to McTavish, I don't know. You better get back a comparable talent. You can't, this team is no longer trading for futures. They shouldn't be. They're about, 15 points out of a playoff spot, which is close, which is in striking distance. They made the one leap they needed to make last year, Hustler, going from 59 points to 80-some-odd points last year. Now they have to take it to the next level. You trade Mason McTavish and you bring back futures, there's regression there. And look, I like Strome, and Strome's a really good player, but to have him as a 3C on the team with Carlson and McTavish in front of him, that's the lineup that you want to ice to try to get to the playoffs this season.
So just to wrap this part up, talking about McTavish, for the folks that are hitting us up in the inbox saying trade a couple prospects and a first-round pick to the Ducks for Mason McTavish, that ain't getting it done at this point with where they are in their growth.
They have too many prospects. They have too many young players. They need established players. So if you wanted to trade, if he was still on the team, a Nikolai Ehlers, right? If that would have to be to come out, because this is a 2C. I don't think he's a 1C, to be honest with you, Hustler. I know that he was drafted very high, I think 3rd overall. But yeah, the Ducks are not at that stage where if Mason McTavish was 29 years old and on the last year of his deal, that would be the type of trade for Winnipeg that would make sense. Not at this age, not at where the Ducks are in their rebuild.
How big of an impact do you think Q can make with the Ducks team that, as you mentioned, had a big kind of bump forward last year, despite still being somewhat out of the playoffs in the last month of the year?
I think I'll have a huge impact on that left side defense. When you look at kids like Zellweger and Mintukov, I really, really like what they have on the left side there. So I think he'll certainly mold those guys, because remember, Q is the guy that molded Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook. So I think they're looking for more of the same from him now. And now it's certainly a different generation. It's 10, 15 years in the past. But I think that's why they brought in Q. And not for nothing, Cronin did a good job. But, and I get it. Q's old school too, but Q's old school with 3 rings. A little bit different than a guy who was old school at 61 years old, who got some traction from this team. But I think that was a situation where Greg Carter was the guy that transitioned the team from a bottom feeder to, an average team. I think they're looking at Q to make this team a Stanley Cup contender. So I think where he'll really pay dividends is on that left side with those young defensemen.
Speaking of young teams that are rebuilding, Dennis, I want to ask you about the Sharks and the Blackhawks. And a year ago,
yep,
the Sharks had bottomed out. They were picking number one. There was all this excitement for the Blackhawks going into year 2 of Connor Bedard, taking a step forward. Which team is farther, in your opinion, farther ahead right now going into next season after the moves that have been made this year to being a competitive team? Is it the Sharks or is it Chicago?
Well, the Sharks have Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini at the 1-2. The Blackhawks have Bedard and Frank Nazar. I got to say it's the Sharks. They're ahead. Now, the Blackhawks might have a better record this season coming up because they added Spencer Knight late, so that's an add. I just think at this point, the Sharks are a little bit ahead because of what they have at the 1-2. Now, Frank Nazar may be able to be a competent number 2. And I'm not saying the jury's out on Bedard, but, Donato and Teravainen around him, he should be more productive. We'll see. I just think that the Sharks have – I think they're better on track because I like their prospects better that could emerge to get this team back to, let's say, 500. So I think at this point it'll be San Jose.
Well, the one thing I wanted to mention about San Jose, and I'll give Mike Greer a lot of credit. I mean, I think they have, it seemed like Kyle Davidson even this year said, we want to let these young players play, so we don't want to bring some veteran players in to maybe take that spot. But at the same time, we saw how that worked last year, and
yeah,
it seemed like it sucked a lot of the life out of Connor Bedard. Bedard would have thought to have been an automatic for the Canadian Olympic team next year. Yeah. And frankly, even Four Nations last year. He hasn't been in very many conversations that I've been having about that. And then you look at the growth that Celebrini and the Sharks had last year, and then the players that they added, many of them on one-year deals, which likely will be flipped at the deadline for more assets. I have to say, if I'm comparing the job that Kyle Davidson has done to the job that Mike Greer has done, I'm far more impressed with what Mike Greer has been able to achieve than what we're still waiting for to see happen in Chi-Town.
Yeah, I look at one player. Tyler Toffoli should have signed in Chicago, right, to play with Bedard. Instead, he signed in San Jose to play. And granted, he's getting $6 million a year, but he's playing with Celebrini. The one concern I have about the Sharks, when you look at their defense, Hustler, the top four is Ferraro, Liljegren, Orlov, and Klingberg. Not a playoff roster, right? I mean, that's it. And Muka Demil and the young Russian kid is on the third pair. So, but yeah, I would have thought that, and I get it, you needed to surround Bedard with better players to make him feel better, to make him see there's a path towards that. And they have what they have on the top 6. They have, like I mentioned, Teravainen, Donato, Bertuzzi. Donato had a really nice season, but Bertuzzi, Burakovsky, Nick Foligno, it was a poor construction of veteran talent that was inputted, and that's why you saw the season that Chicago had.
Hey, while we're talking about some West Coast teams that we don't often see as much here in the Central, what do you make of the offseason for the Kraken? 2 years ago they had that incredible. They make the playoffs. They beat the Avalanche. It seemed like they sort of took a step back, and they were almost an afterthought last year. Thoughts on the pressure on management to move this thing forward in the offseason moves that Seattle made?
Well, they brought back Kakko, which is a good move. He's emerged there. It's just weird. You give Bosma 1 year. I mean, for what was the point of that? Decent down the middle. Beniers is emerging. Look, I still look at that Chandler Stevenson deal, and look, it's less impactful now because the cap's going up. But that was a huge overpayment, right? It's a team hustle that I don't think is going to elevate much. Now they added Ryan Lindgren, which is a nice add. Montour produced and earned his contract there. Dunn should have a bounce back season. The Court and Grubauer, it's a nice team. Does it scare anybody? No. Do I think about this? I think an accomplishment, if they get to 85 points, I think that's an accomplishment. There's just not enough juice here. In the middle 6, is Shane Wright going to finally emerge? They did go get Mason Marshman. So they have made moves to keep a guy like Kako there and keep him happy, and bring in a guy like Marchment and Lindgren. But I don't think it's enough to put them over, especially in that division, over in Edmonton or Vegas or even in LA. So I think at best in that division, they're probably fourth and probably further down the pike than fourth.
Speaking of the Pacific, Vegas was the big winners, if you want to call it that, getting Mitch Marner in. How big of an ad, in your opinion, is that for Vegas? And does that put them as the team to beat, or is it still Edmonton and then everybody else as long as McDavid and Draisaitl are there?
Well, Dorofeev, Barbashev, Stone, Marner, Hurdle, Eichel. It's pretty powerful, right? And you have Saad and William Karlsson and Riley Smith on your third pair. Here's the thing, though. It's going to be more entertaining. Right, Marner, will get to 100 points. Eichel might be in the running for the Hart if Marner blows up like that, right? But here's the thing. They lost some defensive presence. So they really did. And Nick Wall was a 4C there because Carlson was 3. He was really good defensively. I really liked him. And no Petro. They traded Nick Hague, right? So, guys like, Lozon, Korzak's going to have to step up. Like Whitecloud's going to be elevated as well. I'm not sure they're going to be as good defensively. I think when you look at the entire picture of Vegas, I think they're about the same this year. They'll be better offensively, right? I don't think they'll be as good defensively. And yeah, Connor and Leon are going to do the thing. And look, I still think that the Edmonton Oilers are going to find a way to get a top 6 guy in there before we get to either training camp or opening night. I don't know how they do it because they have a lot of cap space. But yeah, I think that the class of the Pacific still is Vegas and Edmonton. You can pick the team you like better. I don't think there's much separating those two teams.
It is very, very quiet right now, but when you and Dave are banging things out on the text chain and having a chat, any areas, any particular teams that you're actually making a point of keeping an eye on over the course of these next 3-4 weeks when things are normally very quiet in the NHL offseason?
Yeah, the thing that we just talked about, the only newsworthy item from now till, let's say, past Labor Day would be when does Connor re-sign in Edmonton and how much does he re-sign for and for how long he signs for. Right, so that's the only thing I'm really looking at right now because, Hustler, you can't in that market bring Connor McDavid to training camp without a contract. You can't do it. It's going to be too big of a distraction. If you ever really want to get over that final hump, to have that going through that narrative the entire season, it won't help this team at all. I'm not sure they're better than the last season. Look, Corey Perry here in LA, I know that a lot of fans are upset about that. Corey scored 19 goals. And I know, look, he played in Connor a lot of the time. And he had double-figure goals in the postseason, right? They're going to miss that, right? So I just think the one story for me is like, because I know there's some Kings fans here praying every night to, whoever they pray to, that Connor McDavid could come to Los Angeles. Maybe 6 years from now, Hustler. It's not going to be anytime soon, and he's not leaving Edmonton. I think that's the one thing that we're tracking with TFP is the length of that contract, which is going to be key. And certainly, he should be the top paid player in the league once that deal gets done, especially if it's a shorter term deal.
Hey, speaking of extensions, right here in the Central Division, Kyle Connor obviously needs a deal. We're expecting that one to be probably in excess of $11 million. Yep. And, it's been somewhat quiet on that. But, similarly, listen, he's not Connor McDavid, but his importance to the Winnipeg Jets
no question
is of that I would suggest it's a very similar situation. But I wanted to ask you before we go about the Minnesota Wild. We've heard that there has not been a lot of progress on an extension of Kaprizov, who is such an important player to them. And then you've got this situation with Marco Rossi. I know I brought up McTavish beforehand. Rossi's the one player that talented young guy, center, can play in the top 6 that many people have thought might be traded. Just quick thoughts on Bill Guerin's challenges right now, the likelihood of getting a deal done with Kaprizov, and what happens with Rossi, if anything, before we get going on the season.
Yeah, like Rossi was a 60-point player last year as a 2C. Like when you're a contender, that's what you need. So look, I get it. He's undersized. He's listed at 5'9", 175. He's probably a little smaller than that. I don't get that. The Kaprizov thing, yeah. Because you would have thought, Hustler, after all that conversation about those 2 buyouts and how arduous it was for Bill Guerin to operate with respect to signing free agents and making trades, and we finally got from under those buyouts, he's going to have to give all the money to Kaprizov. It doesn't really matter, right? I don't know. How can you let that player walk? Like, there's a handful of players you have to overpay. This franchise, that player, you see the impact. There's no conversation. Look, there might be a conversation if Kaprizov is the Hart winner. There's no conversation that he's the Hart winner on this team because you can see how different they are. Whatever it is, you got to pay the guy. Like, he's not replaceable, right? That's and frankly, without him, the team is boring. Like I used to call them the Minnesota Mild before the guy came to town. They have to sign him, whatever it takes. You got to go to ownership. If it's over what you want to pay him, you got to do it. So it is going to be very interesting for Billy Guerin because you formerly thought that at the end of the rainbow for Billy Guerin, when those buyouts were over, now they're out, and he still has some big time challenges because I don't know, maybe it's the market, whatever the case may be, but Kaprizov needs to stay there. He really does if they have, because then you're talking about a rebuild. You really are, Hustler.
You know, it's funny, Dennis, as we look ahead to next summer, there's been so much talk about the free agent class of next year. But with the likes of McDavid, Marner already signed, Kyle Connor, Kaprizov, like there's always been the potential that there could be a glut of free agents that might actually affect the ability for those players to get their top value. It seems really the way that those guys are going to break the bank is going to be on extensions with their previous teams, knowing how important they are and what these teams would look like if they didn't have a Connor or a Kaprizov.
Yes, well, that's what we said. That was the narrative. Oh, look how big the salary cap's going up. It's going to be 110 in 2 seasons. Oh my God, free agency. People forgot the existing teams can use that cap space too to sign their existing players. Right. The one big, it wasn't big. The one number one ranked unrestricted free agent goaltender was Jake Allen, and he stayed in New Jersey. Right. Brock Besser, who, look, he would have been a perfect fit here. I know Brock, he broke my heart by not going to free agents and signing here. He stayed in Vancouver after nobody thought he would stay there. Why? These teams have the space to sign these players. I think the one player you want to look at that may not is, and we talked about Kaprizov, what happens with Panarin in New York, right? He's on the last year of his deal. He's 32 years old. He's not the 110-point player he was a couple of seasons ago. What happens there? But I think that's the one part of the narrative that people forgot is that the cap space allowed these players to stay home. And a lot of players want to stay home. Like Aaron Ekblad was rumored to go to Toronto, wherever. This is it for him, the suspension for PD, whatever. He stayed there because his wife likes it, and they like to walk it in their winning team. So I think that's the one thing that we look at. Now, what does that do, Hustler? If you can't go grab these guys in free agency, how are you going to improve this team? How did Zito do it? How did Breezeball do it to some extent? By trades. But I think that the teams that are close, you might see bigger trades of bigger name players than you would see them hitting free agency at this point in time because these teams do have the cap space to keep guys home.
Dennis, always great catching up. How's the summer been for you? Getting away from the hockey grind post free agency?
It is, yeah. I'm getting on a plane tomorrow morning. Going to go to Boston. I'm going to see the Dodgers and Red Sox play at one of the greatest ballparks in the world, Fenway Park. So I'm going to have a lot of fun and then get ready for September, and we start it all over again. So August will be low-key, Hustler, but a little bit of vacation here at the end of July.
Well, hey, dude, great catching up with you. I hope you enjoy it. No one is grinding more than you and Dave throughout all your work with the NHL, Sirius XM NHL Radio, and the travel, and, of course, the show. So thanks for doing this. Make sure you post a few pictures from Fenway. It's always fun to be able to live vicariously through friends that are going to awesome sporting venues.
Always great being on WST, Hustler. Thanks for the time. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. There's Dennis Bernstein. You give Dennis a follow, and of course, you can check out Dave, and the entire gang over at thefourthperiod.com. All right, talked a little NHL there. We're going to bring it back closer to the next generation of Winnipeg Jets, and Connor Rabchak's going to join us in just a couple of minutes. I do want to give a shout out to our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, doing so much in Winnipeg, Princess Auto Stadium, home of the Bombers, their support of the Jets, the Gold Eyes, and of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk. Princess Auto, headquartered and founded right here in Winnipeg and now coast to coast, but with 3 locations to serve you with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in store today or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Another beautiful, steamy Manitoba summer weekend coming up. I know some of you are camping, getting on a boat, hitting an ATV. You got to make sure you got batteries for all those things. And once again, Manitoba Battery is your local option for the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores. You can save up to $60 a battery by shopping local here with Manitoba Battery. Not only do they have the best prices and selection, they've got the best customer service, because they'll be more than happy to deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. And of course, they do have 2 locations to serve you in store. Logan Avenue, the original Manitoba Battery location, and the new one out at Dovercourt Drive. For all your battery needs, stop paying more at the big box stores. Shop local at Manitoba Battery. Order online today at manitobabattery.com. And hey, wedding season's in full effect, fellas. If you need to up your menswear game, head on down to F Apparel, 190 Smith Street downtown. The best in custom suits starting at just $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of menswear accessories around. If you are getting married or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the guys at F as well about that special discount when the wedding party gets their suits for the big day at F Apparel. They're at 190 Smith Street. Check them out online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting as well at F. That's EPH apparel.com. All right. We'll get to the Bombers later on. Braxton Kuntz as well, who's heading to the Olympic Club to play in the USAM. Right now, though, let's get the gang back together and welcome Connor Rabchak back to the program, who's been grinding on the Jets prospect beat for Winnipeg Sports Talk. Connor, what's cracking, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing great, Huss. Thanks for having me back on the show. I will say, every time that the topic of pending UFAs comes up, like a summer out, at least for the past 2 summers, I remember back to the Scheifele and Hellebuck and how drama-filled that summer was. And it's crazy that we're in like a similar position right now with Kyle Connor, and there's like really no talk about it. It's just like everyone just feels like it's going to get done. It feels like it'll be no problem. But 2 summers ago, exact same scenario. The 2 key players, it was
Doesn't
like
it
every
seem
single
so
day.
different? I mean, like,
So
yeah, I'm glad
different.
you brought that up because, well, I mean, first of all, I mean, I don't think it's really on the fans or even many of us that follow it. I mean, you had the likes of some of the most respected insiders, if you want to call it, saying straight up, don't even think about Connor Hellebuck returning. I mean, the quote in The Athletic, the ship has sailed. Well, It sailed, and then it ended up coming back to port for another 7 years. But I will say this, I mean, and, you know, of course, Mark Scheifele had his ups and downs, and there was a thought that he wasn't particularly happy. It's such a different scenario right now with Kyle Connor coming off extended, consistent, excellent seasons, being the most lethal scorer the Winnipeg Jets have, the importance he is on the club. But it's funny what winning does. I mean, this has been a very, very competitive team. Won a round last year, won the President's Trophy. He's a huge part of that. I mean, it seems like the path to getting this done it'll be more expensive. I mean, like, it's going to cost you, but it really is a very, very different scenario and environment coming into this Connor situation. To be honest, it's like, to your point, it's like a 180, a night and day from where things were at 2 years ago, going, what's going to happen with Connor or with Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck.
And the crazier part, you mentioned it there, is like this one's going to be more expensive. Kyle Connor's coming off of the best season of his career. Like, and there's really no debate about that. Not only did he post a career high in points and had like over 90 points, but the defensive side of the puck, we talked about it like every day on this show throughout the year. The back checks were there. He was more responsible in his own end. He wasn't having, you know, the extended D-zone shifts because he was unable to get the puck out as much. There was still a little bit of that with the top line, but like, there's zero doubt that Kyle Connor's coming off the best season of his career at the perfect time, eligible for an extension, would be a massive, massive get for anyone on the free agent market next season. And here we are, just kind of like, yeah, it'll get done. It's really interesting to see how winning, like you said, Huss, has really changed that, especially these last 2 seasons, because that was at a time, the Scheifele and Hellebuck thing, where they might want to explore. Like the rumor was Connor Hellebuyck might go to the New Jersey Devils because they were a team that was like looking to contend in the East and really on the upswing and was going to contend for a while. And now here in Winnipeg, they've had 110-point season, 116-point season. And it's like, why would Kyle Connor want to leave if he wants to win? The team right here is winning enough to satisfy that if that's what he's looking for.
Maybe the greatest bit of fortune that Kevin Cheveldayoff has enjoyed was the fact that for whatever reason, 2 summers ago, the goaltender market was at a low. And a team like the New Jersey Devils wasn't really willing to give the Jets anywhere close to fair market value. And I think that sort of resonated probably with Ray Petkow, Hellebuck's agent, and Hellebuyck going, okay, well, if we take our chances, what exactly is going to be out there? He makes the commitment to the Jets and then, just goes out and wins back-to-back Vezinas and a Hart Trophy. No big deal. I mean, that contract, when you look at other goaltenders right now and with the cap going up, is right up there with the best in the National Hockey League. But I wanted to bring you on today because you've done a great job putting together. I mean, this is a fun time, coming out of development camp, looking ahead to training camp, especially with where the Jets are losing a player like Nikolai Ehlers as to who's next for Winnipeg. And you put together, there's 2 videos up. I'll suggest everybody go when they've got some time to go through them on YouTube, going through the Winnipeg Jets top 10 prospects. Now, it's always fun putting together lists and ranking players up and down. Give us your criteria first off before we get to it. There's 6 to 10 first, and then there is 1 to 5. But when you're putting together this top 10, what was the criteria? Because obviously some players, where they're drafted, they're closer to the NHL, some are older. How did you put all this together, and what was the criteria for labeling people between 1 and 10?
So I think more of an emphasis on upside and, projecting years from now who I thought would have this better chance of having a strong impact at the NHL level, because you see guys producing junior all the time, but whether or not that translates to the pro game is a big thing. And there are a few prospects on the Winnipeg Jets prospect list that I outlined here that are making that pro jump this year, and that's going to be a big one for them. But yeah, 1 through 10, like I had a guy like Sacha Boumedienne over Colby Barlow, which might be a pretty hot take, but I'm projecting Boumedienne years from now as a guy who's the youngest player or was the youngest player last year in college hockey and a very smooth skater. I think, the skating and the puck moving are things that are going to translate greater. Even though Colby Barlow is undoubtedly closer to an opportunity at the NHL level, it's all about who's going to make a higher impact at the NHL level once they make it there. So that's kind of the criteria I was working with. And go check out the list, and you and I can talk about it right now. Let's do it.
Well, and I mean, listen, I think it's pretty clear that we're starting at the top. And when you break down the prospects of where they are, readiness to potentially get into the National Hockey League, how they project as NHLers, with all the first-round picks in the mix, it's a guy that was actually a second-rounder, and that's Elias Salomonsson. And I would argue that given a different situation with the glut of defensemen before him, he might have been a favorite to start the year with the big club. Now, I'm certainly expecting him to play this year at time in the National Hockey League. Pretty clear that it might not be right out of the gate, but fill us in on why he stands above all the others as the number 1 prospect on the list.
So, yeah, I'll loop him into the second best, which I'll get into in a second as well. But Elias Salomonsson, I think, absolutely has the highest ceiling of any Winnipeg Jets prospect. I think he has true top 4 defenseman potential. You talk about, or I just mentioned, all of these guys transitioning to the pro game eventually, whether it's the AHL or the NHL. Elias Salomonsson was playing in Sweden and made the transition to the AHL this past season on a bad Manitoba Moose team and still had coaches, management, Kevin Cheveldayoff raving about how good of a season he had. So he transitioned to the pro game, to the AHL incredibly well. 6'1", right shot defenseman, 185 pounds, great skater, can move the puck, can play with a little bit of physicality, can clear the front of the net. I don't really see a big glaring weakness in Elias Salomonsson's game, and I do think that there's potential for him to take a massive leap as, a true top 4 defenseman down the line. Now, like I said in the video, and I'll say it again here, is that going to happen this year? Probably not. There's 9 defensemen under contract right now, as well as the fact that if he did play in the NHL, it would almost certainly be in a third pair role. And they would ease him into that. It would not be in the top 4, but I keep going back, and maybe this is the Dylan Sandberg fan in me, just like waiting to come out. But Scott Arniel, before the draft, was asked about Elias Salomonsson, and he said, we have a role model in-house for him, and it's Dylan Sandberg. And if Elias Salomonsson can become a right-handed Dylan Sandberg, that would be a massive, massive win for the Jets. But I will say, Sandberg played 2 full AHL seasons and then made the leap as a third pair guy that was in and out of the lineup every game. And then this past season made the top 4 leap. And we all know how that went. I could see Salomonsson following a very similar development path. And I don't think they're exactly similar players. Sandberg's a little bit bigger, a little bit more of a defensive minded, rangy defender. But I do think Salomonsson, following a similar development path, has similar upside as a true top 4 defenseman down the line.
Yeah. Elias is so interesting in that, he played very well last year, but on a team that really struggled. And sometimes that's difficult for a young player. By all accounts, he had a great attitude about everything and, will come back in. As I say, I expect him to start with the Moose just because of the numbers. But I will say that if he comes out, and the Moose should be a much better, a much different team this year. And, he has a great first couple months showing that, listen, he's ready. And this is just simply a numbers game. I don't think that even for former first rounders like a Ville Heinola or a Logan Stanley, I'm not sure they allow guys on expiring contracts that they don't think they have futures with the organization. We can include Luke Shen in that mix, Colin Miller, both on the right side, maybe more connected to where Salomonsson is. I don't think that if he shows that he's just too good not to be given a chance, that he doesn't get one. In a lot of ways, the glut on the blue line has to work itself out at some point. I mean, just simply going into the season, regardless of Elias, you're not carrying 9 defensemen on your list. So maybe some guy gets on waivers. If there is a taker for one of those players in the 8-9 spot, maybe you just take what you can get for him as opposed to just releasing him beforehand. It does seem the time is not now for Elias Salomonsson, but I do think that Elias has the opportunity to play himself into the mix this season. And we've seen a million times before, what is the situation in training camp? Not necessarily what the situation is after the new year. And of course, injuries play a big, big role in that.
Yeah, exactly. And there was that 1 year, I believe it was 2 seasons ago, where the Jets had like no defenseman injuries until Brendan Dillon cut his hand in game 3 of the first round. That was it. They played the whole season with Schmidt and Sandberg rotating on the third pair, and that was it. And there was no injuries, and that just doesn't happen like ever over the course of an 82-game season. So yeah, I think if there is an injury up front, he's going to be the first guy called up, especially so if it's a right shot defenseman, he's going to be given that opportunity. And I could see, Shen and Miller both on expiring contracts. I do think next season is the time that you'll see Elias Salomonsson make the full-time jump to the NHL. And again, I think it's going to be very similar to Sandberg in the sense of he's not going to come in and play with Josh Morrissey next season. I think he's going to come in and maybe rotate on the third pair, maybe play his way up the lineup, and then eventually be Josh Morrissey's partner in the long term. I think he has that upside, but I'd pump the brakes on him, being a top 4 guy this season. But I do think Jets fans should be excited about the long-term outlook.
If, heading down after Elias, there's a group of 3 players in Braden Yeager, Nikita Chibrikov, and Brad Lambert that all have bright futures with the club. Yeager making his transition to pro hockey this year, a year behind those other guys, but he gets number 2 on your list. Tell us about, just the challenges of ranking 2, 3, and 4. And again, if people want more on the individual seasons and where these guys are at, watch the full video for it. But I imagine that was because this is the thing, whenever you're talking about prospect lists, timing is a part of it. I mean, yes. I would argue Sasha Boumedian, if we were talking about this top 10, likelihood of playing more NHL games and whatnot, I'd say he's probably higher up on the list. But again, very young, just got drafted. The time is a lot more now for Lambert and Chibrikov. And of course, Yeager, maybe not as much this year, but in the next 2 seasons, we'll look to make that jump from starting off with the Moose to getting playing time with the Jets. Tell us about the decision of 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, and that's why the clarification on how you're ranking these prospects is so important, because if you're looking at who's more likely to play NHL games next season, well, Lambert and Chibikov are way ahead of Yager. I think Yager's making the pro leap. It's going to be his first season with the Manitoba Moose. I'd bet on him playing the entire season with the Manitoba Moose coming up here. But the reason he gets number 2 is because I think Yager has the highest floor of any prospect. So I said the same thing, the opposite for Salamonson in terms of I think he has the highest ceiling. There's no doubt in my mind that Brayden Yager will be an NHL player one day and will be an impact NHL player one day, like albeit in a middle 6, bottom 6 role, whatever the case might be. He really has everything as a prospect. You give him space in the offensive zone, he has a good shot. He's a good skater. And then everyone like applauds consistently his defensive game. And everywhere he's gone, that defensive game has stuck with him. And I also want to mention that last year between Moose Jaw, he was the captain and then got traded to the Lethbridge Hurricanes. He had 82 points in 54 games. For a defensive-minded center, that's pretty solid. And then with Canada at the World Juniors, he was their captain as well. So in multiple different places, he's been viewed as a leader. He's respected by his teammates. He's very responsible defensively. And I do think that, you know, making the pro jump and the signings that you saw the Moose make this year, I think he's going to be playing with some strong AHL talent, and he's going to have the opportunity to kind of work that offensive game even a little bit more. So I think Brayden Yager is a very high floor prospect. And in the future, if he can develop even his offensive game a little bit more, because again, everyone raves about the defensive game. He's a defensive style center. If he can bring a little bit more of that offense out, he's a player that I think could be a Winnipeg Jet and a strong impact one for a very long time.
You know, I will say I was a little surprised at who made number 5 on the list, but I can't really disagree with it, because if we were talking about players as stocks, nobody's stock went up more last season than Kieran Walton. And, you know, we had a quick chat with him after he was selected at the Sphere in Vegas, you know, as a 6th rounder. And the first thing that, you know, kind of strikes you is just how big this kid is. But again, 6th rounders, I mean, rarely make it to the National Hockey League. He wasn't playing like a 6th rounder last year, and I think that he comes into this next stage of his career, finishing up junior and potentially making a turn to pro, as a guy that looks a lot more like a 1st or a 2nd rounder than a 6th rounder.
Yeah, and then you want to talk about like high upside prospects. Like how about a 6'6" center that put up 92 points in junior last year, right? So Kieran Walton wasn't even on my top 10 last year, Huss. And now he's number 5. So he's jumped all the way up to number 5. And one thing I do want to mention, I think it's so key with Kieran Walton, is you see players make these massive jumps in junior all the time, but usually it's because they're on a loaded team and they're on a team that is just blowing teams out. They're on the top line, they're on the top power play, and they're winning 7-1 every night, so their points are super inflated. The gap between Kieran Walton and the second highest point getter on the Sudbury Wolves last year was 92 for Kieran Walton and 70 for second. So this wasn't a situation where he was just riding the coattails of another talented player on the top line. He was the driver. He was the guy for Sudbury. And I know you asked him on this show, and we asked him at development camp, you know, what kind of player he models his game after. And he said Tage Thompson. And I said in the video, I mean, if you're a 6'6" center with hands like that, that's really the only player you can model your game after, because Tage Thompson is just such a unicorn. Now, Tage Thompson's a multi-40 goal scorer in the NHL, so I'm going to pump the brakes on, you know, comparing him to Tage Thompson, but the play styles are very similar. And for a guy that went from, you know, mid 40s points to 90 this past season, and it wasn't just riding the coattails of other talented players in junior, he's absolutely outplaying his 6th round draft pedigree. And he's going back to Sudbury this year, but the next year, the jump to pro, that's always tough, especially for a 6'6" center, you know, who might, you know, need to become a better skater, become a little bit stronger. That jump to the pro will be big for Walton. But this year specifically, following up this 90-point season and making sure that it wasn't a fluke is big for Walton.
And, you know, while we're talking about helping your own personal stock last season, a close second would be a close friend of Kieran Walton's and fellow Winnipeg Jet pick and Kevin He, who started off last season as really the talk of the Ontario Hockey League.
Yes. And he comes in at number 8 on my list, right behind Colby Barlow. Again, I try not to take draft pedigree into account as much. Liz Hood, who I do WST Sunday Live with, she's like, as soon as you get drafted, that's when you stop talking about draft pedigree. I'm not quite there. I think that's why I think Barlow maybe
that is a great theory, but it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. Like, organizations don't view it that way, and I don't think I'm quite there yet either. In terms of, Barlow and I kind of did wrestle with on which player I wanted to rank higher. Ultimately went with Barlow, but yeah, Kevin He absolutely had a breakout year this past year in every sense of the word. Captain of the Niagara Ice Dogs. He was incredible, and he wasn't on this list last year either. He cracks 8. If he can follow this up again, he will absolutely be higher on this list, because not only do we know Kevin He's calling card, and that is being a high energy player that treats development camp in July like game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, right? Like, he is always going no matter what, forecheck, back check, physical, whatever you want Kevin He to do, he will like lay his body on the line, lay his life on the line to play for your hockey team. And that is a trait that you really cannot teach. And then you add that with the offensive production that he put up this season, and it really is impressive. And number 8 on the list, he might be even higher next year, all things considered, if he can follow up and prove that this offensive explosion wasn't a fluke.
You mentioned Barlow. And listen, Barlow did not have a great start to the season. He got his trade. He went to a better team. He had a monster playoff run, though, when you look at his production come playoff time, which I'm sure salvaged the season somewhat. But, he's making, like, he's in a very similar situation to Jaeger, making the transition from juniors to the pros. But considering the last couple of years, is there anyone on this list with more to prove this year than Colby Barlow?
I don't think so. I'd maybe say Brad Lambert, and I do want to talk about Lambert in a second, so I will get to him. But Barlow specifically, some of the press clippings I was reading last season was that we know Colby Barlow has an incredible shot, and when Liz and I did our deep dive on him, it's like not only does he have the incredible shot, but he also has the knack of finding open space in the offensive zone to use that shot. Because having a great shot is one thing, but if you're never open and if you're never generating chances, well, then it doesn't matter. You're not using that incredible shot that you have. So he has those traits, and that is something that is very, very valuable when projecting, future NHL success. I will say, it's the other parts of Colby Barlow's game that concern me. The skating, the physicality, the defense that didn't really take a step forward last year. And now he's making the pro jump. So like someone like Braden Yeager, who's coming off a great year, is making the pro jump, I'd say, at like the right time. Like, he's ready for that next step. Colby Barlow, despite having an incredible playoff run, I feel like is making the pro jump at an awkward time. So he falls in at number 7. Brad Lambert, in terms of the most to prove, I still have him as number 3 on my prospect list, because I view what happened last year with the Manitoba Moose and Brad Lambert finishing with like 7 goals in 60 plus games more as the situation around him than Brad Lambert himself. Talked to a lot of people that watched a lot of Moose games throughout the season. They would say the same thing. So I'm still very high on Brad Lambert. He's still 3rd on my list. I still think there's a good chance he plays NHL games this year and looks good in them. And I'm not giving up on him yet. But in terms of most to prove this upcoming season, Barlow making the pro jump is absolutely there. And Brad Lambert, if he has another down season, you can't really use the bad team excuse. Like, we'll see if the Moose are improved, but like this offseason, they made a ton of signings with quality AHLers. So at least looking at the team on paper, that excuse won't be there. We'll see if it ends up being there. But in terms of most to prove, I'd look at Barlow and Lambert as 2 guys. Maybe with the Moose, Lambert, maybe with the Jets. We'll see.
Jacob Julian and Alphonse Frey also both. I guess Julian will be making his jump into the pro game,
yes,
and potentially going to be in the assumably be in the mix with the Moose. And Alphonse Frey will be at camp. He's signed a contract, but in all likelihood being back in Europe. It's up on the YouTube channel right now. There's 2 parts, 6 to 10, 1 to 5. Folks, go check it out. And if you would be so kind, leave a comment on your thoughts on the rankings, and make sure to give a thumbs up on those. Connor's done a great job putting those together. The top 10 Winnipeg Jet draft picks ready for you right now for additional viewing and listening. We will put the pods up on the weekend. So if you're looking forward to some weekend listening, we'll have both of those done up. But certainly when it comes to the ability to have visuals as well, I think you'll enjoy the YouTube content, which is up right now at Winnipeg Sports Talk. Connor, great stuff. Catch up soon, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Looking forward to this next convo with Josh. Bombers Talk just did a great Niners preview on his Back Bacon Brief, and I was checking that out and nailed it as usual. So looking forward to this.
Hey, just quickly, how are you feeling about Saturday?
I'm feeling okay. Zach is healthy. You know, I feel a lot better with that. We'll see about Stanley Bryant, whether or not he plays. That would really, help me out. I do think like the Argos are going to be very desperate. So that scares me a little bit. But I feel a little confident. I'd say 7 out of 10 confidence that the Bombers get it done.
Yeah, listen, I think they can maybe win the game. I don't I don't understand why the line is moving the way that it is on this game. And it seems like every CFL game where the line moves one way, it's the other team that covers.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, they have a tough time in Toronto. They're going to need to be a hell of a lot better against Calgary. We're going to talk about it with Josh in just a second. Connor, thanks again.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, as I said, we've got Braxton and Kuntz coming up, but it looks like Josh is ready to go, so we'll get right to him coming out of Princess Auto Stadium. Of course, we're not at Princess Auto Stadium again until a week tomorrow when the Argos are here for the rematch. You can head down to Royal Sports and get all your blue and gold with the best in Bomber gear, many exclusives that you won't find anywhere else. And while you're at it, check out their massive Jet section. And if you want to get that Jonathan Taves jersey, or your Gabe Velarde, now that he's got a 6-year extension, or maybe one of the players that we just mentioned in the prospect list, Royal Sports has the best in that and has you covered as well. Not to mention soccer, softball, baseball, tennis, running, bikes, everything to take advantage of our beautiful Manitoba summers. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Check them out on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Jake's going to pop on later on. We'll talk about that big win over the Yankees last night for the Jays. Jays are starting off a big series tonight against the Tigers. And we've got CFL kickoff, Montreal, Calgary. No better place to get together with your gang to watch both games in your local Boston Pizza. Scarf down some gourmet pizzas, world-famous BP wings, wash it down with a couple ice-cold schooners, and hey, you can check out that great new summer menu as well. It's all waiting for you at Boston Pizza. Staying at home tonight. You can always get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And hey, just before we bring in Josh Frey-Sam, fresh out of Bomber practice, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's get ready for Saturday in TO. Bombers looking to get back in the win column against a desperate Argos team. Josh Frey-Sam of the Winnipeg Free Press. You guys have some practice. Josh, welcome back to the show, buddy. How are you?
Good, Huss. Hope you guys are doing well. I appreciate you guys having me on as always. Sun is shining. Week 8 CFL, NFL, training camp is fired up. Are you kidding me, man? I got nothing to really complain about. I mean, I'm about to hop on a plane for a couple hours to Toronto right now, but I mean, other than that, we're doing pretty well.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. It'll be a fun place to be. There's a lot of excitement about the Jays, and we got a big football game for both teams coming up on Saturday. I mean, just quickly picking off the practice, been covering the team all year long. Was it just business as usual for the Bombers this week at practice, or was it maybe a little more of a sense of urgency coming off a couple of real reality checks against the Calgary Stampeders?
Yeah, that's the word, urgency, for sure. Was definitely, as far as attitude-wise across the board, for sure was business as usual. But Terrell Bonds, and speaking with him yesterday, that was kind of the first time that I had heard somebody actually mention it. He said there was an increase in urgency this week at practice. Communication has been the theme this week. It's been communication, specifically. You look along the defensive side of the ball, talking about these big plays, which I'm writing about today. Talking to Jordan Younger, Terrell Bonds, Marquise Bridges. Nobody's hiding anything. Nobody's hiding behind anything. It's out in the open. Everybody's owning it. They know that they haven't been good enough, and they talked about the communication side of things has been really where they feel most of their lapses have come from, and why these big plays are happening. On the offensive side of the ball, pretty straightforward. It's just the turnovers, and but we're also trying to increase that communication as well on that side of the ball. But overall, man, I mean, it has been business as usual. Certainly, these guys are itching, eager to get back out on the field. But I don't know. We'll see kind of how things shake out here in Toronto. I just heard you guys talking about it. I mean, the line is what it is, but I mean, like Connor said, this is a desperate Toronto team. So Winnipeg knows they're going to get their best shot, especially on the road here.
Listen, I think that we need to be careful by just saying, "Oh, the Argos, they don't have Chad Kelly and they're a 1-5 team." I mean, the way they lost to Saskatchewan, coming back to tie it, getting the 2-pointer, and then giving up that return touchdown was an absurd way to lose a football game.
Yeah.
And I mean, last week they had an 18-point lead at the end of the third quarter and lost by 1 point to Montreal. I mean, it's not like this team has not been competitive, and those are two of the best opponents that they've faced all year long. So yeah. I think back just to the history the Bombers have against the Argos, especially at BMO Field, and even if the Bombers were at full health rolling, this game would still, and I think does give Bomber fans a few nerves going in. But maybe this is exactly the sort of test they need coming out of a team like Calgary, who beat them in every aspect of the game. I mean, there's not like they can say, well, it was this one area that didn't go well very far. I mean, Mike O'Shea said it earlier this week. It was everything. It was the discipline. It was offense, defense. It just didn't seem anywhere close to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers standard that we've come accustomed to under Osh.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And exactly that. I mean, it is the amount of things. It wasn't the big things. It wasn't necessarily, as he said, the minute things as well. It wasn't just those things. It was the amount of things. It was missed gaps. It was missed assignments. It's missed tackles. It's interceptions. It's penalties. It's busted coverages. It's everything. And these two teams are kind of funny because they're kind of same, but different in the sense that they've kind of, as Derek Taylor said, been puking on themselves a little bit in a sense lately in these more recent weeks. So that's kind of been the funny thing, is these two teams enter this game kind of in a similar fashion, I would say anyways. And listen, man, this is Jordan Younger talked about on the defensive side of the ball. I think what was really interesting for me to hear was I mentioned the communication and how big of an emphasis that's been this week. Jordan Younger talked about the fact that how there are two different ways for him to call a defense, and how the first one is something that he doesn't subscribe to. The first one is he could just call a defense and let the play run as it does. And it doesn't matter what kind of formation the offense comes out in. They are just going to run that defense that is called. He doesn't subscribe to that. What he subscribes to is he calls a play and then allows the defensive players to change that play based on what the formation that the offense comes out in. But what that also leads to is potentially miscommunication on the defense side of the ball. And so that gives them maybe a better opportunity to defend whatever play that the offense is running. However, that they only have from the time the offense breaks the huddle to the snap of the ball about 7 seconds. And I thought this was really great insight from Jordan Younger. He talked about the fact that, yes, they might be switching a play on defense, but that play, that communication needs to be relayed to all 12 players on the field. And if somebody's not getting that message properly, well, then you see some of the plays that are kind of happening. And we hear it all the time, the cliche of you can't make mistakes against good teams. Well, Bombers fans have literally watched it the last two games is making mistakes against a good team, and this good team making them pay. And so it's been, like I said, the big things. It's been the little things, and the Calgary Stampeders have made the Bombers pay over and over and over again. And so you can't do this against the Toronto Argonauts here as well. This is still a good football team. They know they're going to get their best here. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how specifically the Bombers defense responds, just because the big plays that they have been giving up, it's not sustainable whatsoever.
Well, and never mind just the big plays that have gone in for 6. I mean, I was in the stands and people were 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10. You just expected Calgary to get it. I mean, VA was really having his way with that Bomber defense. And I think everyone realizes that they've got another level that they're going to need to get to beat anybody, especially an Argo team that I think, frankly, is better than their 1-5 record, despite the fact that they haven't played with Chad Kelly all year long. Listen, Dalton Schoen's on the 6th game. We don't expect him. Stanley Bryant, though, is one of those pillars of the Bomber offense that I think we saw what can happen when he is not out there. Mike O'Shea yesterday said that he doesn't need to practice. He was looking good out there. Have you been able to squeeze anything out of O'Shea as to the possibility of Bryant being in a jersey as opposed to a tracksuit on Saturday?
Yeah, you know what? I asked point blank, like, is availability still open at this point, at least? And he said, yeah, it's still up in the air. So, and then that's about where that answer ended right there. And we were able to get. He said today that Bryant, he was there, took a couple of snaps, but it wasn't enough. That's what O'Shea said today. So it was kind of interesting, his wording on that. But yeah, I'm just going to take it as maybe at best today was a limited participant, which would be an upgrade over not participating at all the past 2 weeks. But listen, man, O'Shea, he says that these guys don't need practice, but like, and to an extent, I believe him. But at the same time, like, we're talking about 2 full weeks since Stanley Bryan has practiced, since he's done a kick step, at least that we've seen, right? Since he has done a practice a kick step, since he's, had a hand in his chest, since he's, had to battle somebody, like, you can't replicate, even practice, even getting on the practice field. I mean, that's at least a step, but you can't replicate that. Like just doing it in your bedroom or something, man. Like you gotta, like this guy's got to practice. I think anyways, at least if you're going to get the best version of him, and that's just my opinion, but I hope Stan proves me wrong, but it's just, yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. My answer is I don't know, because, and honestly, I don't know if O'Shea knows at this point either.
Well, I mean, I will give you credit. Reem and I were talking before we went on today. I said, you'll spend another 30 or 35 years in this business.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure you'll have a tougher subject ever to get a straight answer out of than Mike O'Shea. And these might be the reps. These might be the practice reps for you as a younger journalist that you need to make you great later on in your career, because he is a tough nut to crack.
No doubt. Not even just as a young journalist. Shoot, we got Derek Taylor, who's been in the Ed Tate, who's been in the industry how long? I mean, these guys are having a tough time too. Like these guys are getting their practice reps in as well for the rest of their careers. Like it's pretty incredible. It's frustrating at times for sure, especially since we're gonna get the injury report in like whatever it is, like in less than an hour here. But whatever. I mean, it is what it is. Does my gut say Stan's probably not going to play? Yeah, my gut says Stan's probably not going to play, but that's just because, yeah, he hasn't practiced. Like, I mean, I don't know, but if it does say on the injury report today that he was a limited participant, then yeah, sure, the chances definitely drastically go up, I would say. But yeah, at this point in time, I don't think anybody can say with confidence that Stan's going to play.
No, definitely not. Josh Frey-Sam's with us. We know that Dalton Schoen won't be out there. It seems like Cody Case is in again. I've just got to ask you, we've talked a lot about Dylan Mitchell's plot this year. Like, what does he do at practice? I mean, is he just sort of there waiting to get in with the ones sometimes? I mean, have you seen him?
Yeah.
Is anything different now than it was earlier in the season? Or is he basically just a backup afterthought for this?
Yeah, we saw him actually, I think it was yesterday. He actually did get like a couple of snaps with the first team. Just he was out there. It was actually Carrick Wheatfall that came out of the game. Obviously, he's American. But it was Carrick Wheatfall who he swapped in for. And then and yeah, he got a couple of first team reps, and I actually think he dropped a ball, which was probably not great for his his case that he's trying to make here. But he dropped a ball. But I mean, no, Dylan, I mean, for the most part, Dylan's looked fine. But other than that, he's getting some reps still at punt returner and kick returner. I'll say that as well. It's been him, Trey Vovel as well, of course, and then Cody Case, who have been the three constants, I should say, who are getting some reps at returner. But Dylan is clearly the third guy, even in that rotation. And then he's just getting his reps on the scout team when they do scout. And like, other than that, I mean, he's not really, he's just kind of, he's hanging around, and we're looking to get his reps when he can. But I don't really, we were talking about this yesterday. I just don't, like, we're almost 2 months into the season. You know what I mean? Like it's, and really we're over 2 months if you count training camp. Like it just doesn't make sense why still don't have this guy in the field. And Jason Hogan has gone out and said, you know, he sees Dylan Mitchell as a wideout because, and he kind of, you know, without, you know, dragging on him too bad, he talked about the fact that, you know, he needs to improve on the waggle if he's going to be trusted in the slot, right? He just said some guys have a feel for the waggle, some guys don't. And then which is good. He gave a good, you know, open answer, but at the same time, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I think it was John Hodge who pulled it up the other day. Dylan Mitchell's played 14 games in the slot, like 14 career games. So it's not like this is brand new to him, and he's had production out of the slot as well. So yeah, maybe that might not be his best position, but at the same time, it's not like he's green at the slot position. And if he is the talent that the Bombers thought they were getting when they gave him, X amount of money that he's earning this year, you would think that if he's that kind of talent, he should be able to go into the slot regardless. It just doesn't make sense to me at this point. And talking about, maybe he could be saving him or whatever. Like that doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. He needs to be in the game. And if he's not, then what are we doing having that guy just sitting on the bench?
Yeah, it is one of the great mysteries of this season so far from a Blue Bomber perspective. Josh Frey-Sam will be in Toronto covering the game for the Winnipeg Free Press. Josh, great stuff. Connor mentioned it. I'm so glad you mentioned the Back Bacon Brief because as we all get ready for fantasy season, we cannot get enough. Some great team previews happening right now for everyone that is getting ready for their season. Fill people in again on how they can get the newsletter. And I promise, I know we're focused on Bombers. You're on the beat today. But as we get into the month of August, we're going to need to get you back for some good fantasy football conversations before we all start drafting. But let people know how they can sign up for the newsletter.
Yeah, man. I'm already ready to go for fantasy here. Anyways, Back Bacon Brief. You can get the link in my bio at Frey-Sam on my X there or on my Instagram, whichever one. But link in the bio and Back Bacon Brief is right there. Subscribe to the newsletter. Right now, I got some stuff going on this summer, so I'm only doing it three times a week right now. But right now, it's either fantasy football or it's team previews. We're trying to get as many of those done. I'm hoping I can get all 32. But these beat writers, man, they are busy once training camp goes on. Wait, I thought we're busy in training camp, plus, but these guys are. I mean, I think we talked about it before. Like these guys are noting, 12 for 12 in camp and writing full stories based on these guys going 12 for 12 in like shorts and sweater or shorts and t-shirts, and it's hilarious, man. But so these guys are busy, but hopefully I can get a couple more of these beat writers to carve out 10-15 minutes for me and get some more team previews here, get us ready for the season.
Great stuff, Josh. Listen, awesome hit as always. Travel safely. Enjoy the weekend out in TO and the game. And we'll talk to you real soon here on WST. Thanks as always.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Good stuff. There's Josh Frey-Sam at JFrey-Sam on X and on Insta. And if you are an NFL fan and you want a lot of info heading into season with training camps going on, Josh is doing a great job and totally free. Highly recommend you subscribe. All right. Jake Bolin is going to hook up with us in a few minutes. We will talk about the big Blue Jays win last night. And, of course, our guy Adam Svensson, Canadian, with the 60 in the first round of the 3M Open. But first up, we're going to talk a little golf. Just before that, do want to remind you the Goldeyes are back, speaking of baseball, beginning a homestand tonight. And tonight, they're giving away the Jamaica trip. Great promo night. So if you are going to the game tonight or you were thinking about it, wouldn't that be cool to get hooked up for a Jamaica trip? Some lucky fan will be getting that one tonight. And then tomorrow is Christmas in July with the big fireworks show after the game. And Ukrainian night later on in this homestand on the 30th, heading into the long weekend. Assiniboia Downs, beautiful night last night out at the track. We're getting ready for the Manitoba Derby on the Monday of the long weekend. Of course, live racing returns next Tuesday and Wednesday. And later on next week, we'll get Darren Dunn on to preview the biggest day of racing of the year, the Monday of the August long weekend and the Manitoba Derby. Now, coming up, usually we'll do a Breezy Bend golf report. We'll touch on that and what Adam Svensson did a little bit later, but no better way to do our Breezy Bend golf segment than bring in the pride of Breezy Bend. I would say the most accomplished male amateur golfer ever in the history of our province. 4 straight Manitoba amateur titles. Did not play in the event this year because he's getting ready for the Canadian amateur, but just in the past week, Breezy Bend's Braxton Kuntz, 5 under down in Kansas City, and is now qualified for the U.S. amateur at the famed legendary Olympic Club. Let's welcome Braxton in right now and talk about qualifying for the USAM in a very busy few months or few weeks ahead that could include his pro debut at the Manitoba Open later on next month at Breezy. Braxton, welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk. It's great to have you back. How's it going?
I've been great. I've had a busy couple of weeks, and things have turned out in my favor. But yeah, I'm living the life right now.
Well, let's get to it. Just a few days ago, down in Kansas City, a 5-under round qualifying for the U.S. Amateur at the Olympic Club, a famed course, has held major championships before. Tell us about qualifying for the USM. I mean, this must be massive for you.
I was trying not to put pressure on myself, but knowing that there's 18 holes between me and the Olympic Club was, a lot to think about. I got off to a pretty slow start of the round too. Big thunderstorms were coming through the city. Round got delayed 5 or 6 hours, and by the time I got back to the course, I was tired. So it took me a while to get things going, but I made some birdies on the back 9 and checked the leaderboard, and next thing I know, I'm playing at the Olympic Club. So exciting times.
You shot a 5-under par. Give people a little bit of a background. I mean, this is a massive tournament. It is the biggest amateur event in the world. I mean, if you win an event like this, like the winner of the U.S. Amateur is going to get into the Masters. We'll get into 3 of the majors next year. So there are literally thousands, probably tens of thousands of people trying to qualify. Fill us in on what you just went through these 2 rounds to make it to the Olympic Club.
Yeah, so it's a grind. I mean, it's 2 separate qualifiers, 2 stages, 18 holes each. So I was down in Minnesota a couple weeks ago, shot 4 under to get through that stage. And then I was in a field again just a few days ago, all, really solid college players. So I knew I was going to have to play well. And 5 under got me through by only a shot. So, I mean, it just speaks to, I think, the depth of competition and, everyone wanting to play in this event. So, again, I'm really honored to have the opportunity to compete in this, this tournament. And hopefully it'll be the last amateur event of my career.
You, of course, just finished up your 4 years at Ball State playing NCAA golf. Did you know many other of the players in the final round there in Kansas City that you were competing against just from your NCAA years?
Not off the top of my head, but when I got there and I saw the college bags, Arkansas, Auburn, Iowa, Texas, all very talented players. So I knew it was going to take a pretty low score to get through. But to compete with those guys and post a number that, thankfully actually beat a lot of them, I think it was something I'm really thankful to have accomplished. But again, great experience. I think John Daly's kid was in it as well. So little celebrity name there.
Yeah, JD Jr. Maybe the big guy. I'm not sure whether the big guy, senior, can be a caddy for the event. He's more of a golf cart guy, but I guess we'll see it. So, I mean, for people that aren't familiar, how big of a deal is it to get to the USM, but also to play at a famed course like the Olympic Club for you?
Oh man, the Olympic Club. I mean, a top 30 course in the world, probably. It'll be something I haven't experienced before. And again, I'm just feeling so blessed that I get the opportunity to play at that course and be on that property. And the USGA does such an unbelievable job of running their events too. I mean, I've only been to one championship before, but they treat you so well. So it's going to be such a fun week, even regardless of how I play. I think it takes a lot of pressure off me just knowing that I've been able to get this far and just soak it all in.
Well, I mean, it's a hell of a way to finish up and an incredible amateur career that, as I mentioned, includes 4 consecutive Manitoba AMs. Up until last year, you didn't play in the event this year, representing a very proud club of Breezy Bend. So listen, this goes from the 11th to the 17th. You just qualified this week. What's going on now behind the scenes to prepare to get down there? I mean, you got to figure out where to stay, who's going with you. I mean, what's the next couple weeks going to be like, and what's on that to-do list in addition to practicing to try to be your best at the event?
I got quite a bit of stuff on my plate. I mean, I leave for the Canadian Amateur on Saturday, so I'm already flying off to Ottawa, and I got to focus on playing my best there. So thankfully, I've sorted out flights and hotels. I'm still working on a caddy. I'm hoping I can get someone from Breezy to caddy for me, but we'll see. But yeah, as far as preparing for the event, I got to focus on the Canadian Am first. So play well there. And then once that's passed, I'll have about a week at home. I've been focusing a lot on trying to find sponsorship as well. So I've got that on my plate. But at the end of the day, as long as I golf well, I think, everything else will follow. So that's my priority for now.
Well, certainly. I mean, the results of this week certainly aren't going to hinder that quest for sponsors. Quickly tell us about the Canadian Am. Where is it? And you've played in this event before. I mean, what are your hopes, expectations, and goals for our national amateur championship?
Yeah, it's at the Royal Ottawa Golf Club. I think it's hosted the Canadian Am 10 times. So great golf course, old country club style, par 70, narrow fairways, but it's going to be in beautiful shape. I'm sure the rough's going to be grown out. The greens will be rolling fast. So again, really looking forward to it. I would say I have some pretty high expectations because of where I was able to finish last year. I played great last year. I came third and was really proud. That was probably my best finish in a big tournament. So I'd like to improve on that if I can, but at the end of the day, just go out there and have some fun. I've been working hard on my game and I feel confident. So by the time I step on the course, I'll kind of let that take care of itself.
You know, I mean, you mentioned that third place finish last year. I'd imagine, you know, coming off, you know, a 5-under round under the pressure that's involved in that USAM qualifier, you got to be feeling pretty good about your game going into the Canadian.
I do. I mean, I struggled a lot back in May and June. I was going through some putter troubles. I switched to a new putter that Eric Johnson at TaylorMade gave me, and I've been putting a lot better with it. I don't know if you've been following putters much with golf, but those lab golf putters are kind of all the rave right now. So TaylorMade's got their own face balance putter that I've tried out. I've been rolling it better, and that's kind of what it came down to for me, making more putts, making more birdies, and kind of avoiding those big mistakes. So I'm pretty optimistic about my next couple tournaments. But
obviously, there's lots that goes into putting together a great round. But at that elite level where everyone is really good, probably does more often than not come down to who's getting it closer to the hole, but obviously who's able to put it in with the flat stick.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the amateur golfers are so good now. I mean, everyone can hit it far, everyone can hit it close, but it's making those short or mid-range birdie putts that really divides the guys. So putting something I've always kind of struggled with, but I think recently I'm starting to trend in the right direction. And if I can keep it going, I mean, avoiding bogeys and letting the birdies come is what it comes down to. I mean, I was one stroke out of being in a 3-for-1 playoff at the U.S. Amateur Qualifier. I mean, one stroke is nothing in golf, right? So the margins are so slim and everything matters. So,
well, I can tell you, I mean, talking to Corey and some of the gang at Breezy, everyone is over the moon with the opportunity that you've got over the next few weeks to finish up your amateur career in an incredible fashion. And then we talk about what's next. Not coincidentally, Breezy Bend, your home course, happens to be hosting the Manitoba Open. You did mention, I mean, you finished your 4 years at the NCAA. Pro golf is in your future. I would imagine if things fall the right way, a professional debut at a course you know as well as anyone would be in the mix later on in August.
I mean, it kind of seems like the stars aligned for that one, right? I can't think of a better place to start my pro career. I mean, I've been at the club since I was 8 years old. I know so many people there, and Breezy Bend has been so supportive of me. I'm really grateful for everything they've done. So to then be able to start my pro career at the same course and hopefully play in front of the same people and play well, I mean, I'd love it. It would mean the world to me.
For your pro career, I mean, obviously it's a really unique opportunity with the Manitoba Open being here and at your home course, but beyond the end of the year in this tournament here in Winnipeg, when would it start? How much have you thought about it? Is there a path where you will start? How does all that work? Because I'm sure it's a big change from playing college golf. The rules are different, and we all know what it's like on the pro tour. It's every man for himself, and it ain't easy.
It's cutthroat. And I mean, in college, you know, your coach handles all the traveling, all the expenses. You just show up and go out there and compete, right? But in pro golf, I'm kind of my own boss now. I got to handle all those responsibilities. I got to set my own budget. I got to raise my own money. So it all falls onto my hands. And so it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but I've got a really good picture of, thankfully, all these qualifying tours are September to December. So it's going to end up working well with when I plan to turn pro. You can go a bunch of different routes. Obviously, there's PGA Tour Q School, there's European Tour, Asian Tour. There's tours all over the world. So I'm trying to pick probably 2 of them. If you do all of them, it's really busy and expensive, but I'm going to try and target 2 that I think I'll have a great shot at qualifying for. And then assuming I can work through fundraising and have the means to do it, I'm really looking forward to pursuing that and just being able to compete against some of the best players in the world and travel around, play these beautiful courses, and obviously work really hard at my game. It's something I've dreamt to do since I was young.
The September to December portion after turning pro, is that in North America? Is it going to be overseas? I mean, we've seen someone like our pal Aaron Cockrell who took kind of a different route and has earned himself a spot on the DP Tour playing against some of the best players in the world. I mean, how's all that shaking out, at least in the short term, for where you're going to plan on try and take that next step?
Right. So they all kind of overlap with each other. European Tour and PJ Tour, they both run at the same time. Again, like I said, you can kind of do both, but you're going to be going back and forth 1 week in Europe, 1 week in the US. It's pretty exhausting. So I'm going to pick one of those two. I'm not sure which one it is yet, but I'm hoping to figure that out in the next few weeks. And then at the same time, Asian Tour has gotten really big, with its ties to Live now. So they have a qualifier over in California there in November. But yeah, as far as which route I'm going to take, I haven't decided fully yet, but I think I'm leaning maybe more towards the European route just because I think Aaron's had some great success over there.
It's such exciting opportunities for you. And obviously, I mean, that time that you had at Ball State, I'm sure really helped. I mean, looking back a couple of years ago when you made the decision to go there, how beneficial was it playing in those NCAA tournaments at that level of competition? And at the amateur level, which of course is going to conclude in Frisco in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I was very torn with what school I was going to pick when I was transferring. My first school, I love the guys on the team. I thought the facilities there were great, but I was looking for a little bit more competition, maybe a little bit better coaching. So I was thinking about it a lot when I was in the transfer portal. Like, I just hope that I'm picking the right place to go. And I ended up signing with Ball State, which, our coach did an amazing job, such a respectable guy, and got us into some of the best tournaments in college golf. We played at Vanderbilt and Auburn, like teams that compete for a national championship. So to have that experience and play against them, it kind of shows me where I stack up and what I can improve on too. So I'm really grateful for everything that Ball State did for me. I mean, they've really developed who I was as a golfer. And at the same time, our coach got us into events where we were traveling. I got to see so many states. We got to go to the Bahamas and Puerto Rico. And I mean, it was really cool. So I'm thankful for everything Ball State did.
Well, and now you're on your own, as it were. Canadian amateur and now the U.S. amateur at the Olympic Club before the Manitoba Open and an expected start to your professional career at home sweet home at Breezy Bend. I mean, it doesn't sound like it could have worked out any better for this summer. And I know there's a lot on your mind about the pros, but in the meantime, good luck at the Canadian Am. Good luck in Frisco at the Olympic Club at the USAM. And Braxton, we're going to be doing the show live at Breezy during the week of the Manitoba Open. So let's count on a sit down live at your home course at some point that's convenient for you, talking about the amateur events and looking ahead to what hopefully will be an amazing pro career getting started.
I'd love to. Thanks again for having me on. Thanks, guys.
Our pleasure. Good luck. We'll be following you on the weekend and at the USAM. Thanks, Braxton, and we'll see you at the Manitoba Open. Hey, Comet and Reg Dunlop, I'll pass on your availability to caddy down at the Olympic Club. What an awesome story. Really love having Braxton on, and I know, all of Manitoba golf pulling for him, but a lot of very happy members of Breezy Bend that Braxton's going to continue on his amateur journey for a few more weeks at the two massive events, and then take a crack in all likelihood with the pros in his pro debut at the Manitoba Open. We'll be doing shows at Breezy for the Manitoba Open in August. Cannot wait for that. All right, let's welcome in. Normally we just get to the Coolbet lines today, but we got lots to talk about. Let's welcome in our pal, Jake Bolin Moss from Coolbet. And I threw the Coolbet hat on because I knew, Jake, you wanted to make sure you were flying the colors of the Toronto Blue Jays. What a win last night. Yankee fans in shambles right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not flying the Jays colors or the Coolbet colors right now with the day we're having here, then I don't know what flag you're flying. Maybe Gold Eyes back in action. Maybe you're flying your Golden Eyes flags, or maybe you're flying your Blue Bombers flags for this weekend against the Argos. I mean, that line just keeps on moving. And I'll tell you what, Huss, I know this wasn't what we were going to talk about off the top, but that CFL 110 boost has seen some massive movement in the last 3 days. I don't know what number you got it at, but it's like plus 350 now.
I got it at plus 440.
Yeah.
Which is another reason, folks, to join myself and Jeff Hamilton early in the week. We're usually on the right side of these lines at the beginning. And even with the boost, we had it at, well, I think it was originally in at about plus 370, and we got it boosted to plus 440. With the line movement in the Bomber game, the Stamps game, and the Ticats game, it's now plus 316, but still boosted to plus 358. That is up in the combos. But I'll tell you what, been making a little money, having some faith in the Toronto Blue Jays lately. What a series. I mean, you're a fan, but you're around. I mean, I would imagine that the excitement for the Jays in the GTA, and really, let's face it, this is Canada's team coast to coast, is about as big as it's been potentially in the last decade. And I mean, I know you and many people had low expectations for the teams this year, but frankly, that's what's made this that much more fun. And to do it in the fashion that they did against the Yankees this week after the 4-game sweep heading into the break, you kind of got to pinch yourself as a Jays fan right now with a 4-game lead in the AL East.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to feel like, those 15, 16 seasons, Huss, where it just feels like this team gets going and it's hard to slow them down. I was looking to go to a game on Tuesday. I was like, oh, maybe I get in the building, see what the prices are, me and a buddy, and I start looking in the morning. I'm like, holy moly, $150 to sit up top in the nosebleeds, checking throughout the day. They're not getting much better. I'm like, okay, like, you know what? The demand is there now. That's why you see the stadium. It's filled up now during the week. Usually during the week, the team's not playing too well. They're playing 500 ball. There's plenty of seats to go around and some cheap ones at that. But you're seeing the stadium now, especially in a series like the Yankees one. It's filling up, and that atmosphere is really helping the team, get over the hump and win a lot of these games. Like, Huss, this team isn't only, they're not only like exceeding expectations slightly, they're like over the top exceeding expectation. This team is not only leading the AL East, but at the top of the American League right now with the best record tied with Houston, going into Detroit against a team who leads their division right near the top of the AL as well. In another big series. It just seems to be big series after big series after big series right now for this team.
Well, and I'll say, I think they're getting to Motown at the perfect time. Detroit's playing their worst baseball of the year. They just got swept by the freaking Pirates. And Tariq Skubal's gone from the club because he just had a baby. I'm not sure whether he'll be back to get us started in this series. I guess we'll see. But looking at it tonight, it's Eric Lauer versus Reese Olson. And the Jays are once again plus money. We got them plus 120 last night. They're plus 113 today. And I mean, there's no team, I think, in the majors that's been probably more profitable this year than the Blue Jays if you're just betting them on the money line every night. I mean, they've got 60 wins as opposed to 42 losses, and they have done a lot of this winning as plus money underdogs, and we'll see if we can continue that tonight. You mentioned the atmosphere in the crowd. I mean, if you've been watching these games on television the last few days, like, I can't remember games that sort of had playoff feels in July, but it's a combination of the rivalry with the Yankees, the fact that they have been all season long, presumably the team to beat. But yeah, add in those extra 20,000 asses in the seats. You have a team that's playing every single inning to win and doing so well and doing it against a rival like that. Like, that was September feels basically in late July.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about this team right now is, Huss, like, they're not just they're really not giving up in any single game. Like, I don't know, in past years, a team would score a couple runs and it would just feel like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know if they can make up these runs because they'd struggle to put guys over the plate. But what's happening now is they're finding ways to score. They're putting balls in play. They don't strike out a whole lot. One of the best teams in the league when it comes to not striking out. So, you combine that with a good atmosphere, and you see what happens last night. 4 errors from the Yankees all led to runs at certain points in the game. It's unreal to watch right now. It's super exciting, and you're getting different guys involved in the winning. Like, everyone's playing a role. Miles Straw had a huge double last night. Vladdy's getting in the mix. Bo had a homer last night. George Springer, we talked about him, the resurgence of Springer. It just feels like every different night someone else is the hero. And I mean, I wanted to raise this question, to the people in the chat. Like, who's your MVP this year? Because I think easily you could say 5-6 different names as your Blue Jays MVP. I know we still got, a good chunk of games left here, probably 60 games left in the season, but I think there's a ton of guys you could say. I'm a big fan of Addison Barger, and I know, you and I chatted last week. I know you're big on the George Springer resurgence right now. Like, in the chat, let us know who you think is the MVP up to this point of the season, and it'll be interesting to see what they do, Huss. We got 1 week away from the trade deadline here in the MLB.
Yeah, Uke in the chat, plus money on one of the hottest teams. Yes, please. I'll tell you what, Duck Dad as well. What's up, Duck Dad? Let's do why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly McGillivray. Let us know in the chat who you got for the Blue Jays MVP so far. I think I'm going to still ride with George Springer, and partly that it was so unexpected. I mean, you kind of thought that was a sunk cost for the $20 million or whatever he's making, and he has certainly been earning it this week. I'm just looking. I pulled up the futures, and I've been spending a lot of time kind of watching this. I was wondering how this line might move coming out of this series, because going in, the Yankees were even money to win the AL East, and the Jays were plus 120. The Jays won the first game, and it didn't move. The Jays lost the second game, it didn't move. Well, with winning the third, we finally saw a pretty significant movement on the AL East number, and the Jays went from plus 120. They're now minus 125 favorites to win the AL East, and the Yankees are plus 125. What was interesting, though, was that I think people are starting to take them more seriously as a World Series contender. Now, they're still 8th. I mean, the Dodgers are the clear favorite at plus 265. The Tigers, the Jays are playing tonight, 8-1. Yankees 9-1. Astros 10-1. Phillies and Mets also 10-1. Cubs 11, and then you've got the Blue Jays. But that was 15 earlier this year. But if you want a Blue Jays future to jump on right now, I would suggest you bet the AL. They're still, they were 7-1 going into this series. They're still 7-1 to win the AL. I was surprised when their World Series number went from 15 to 12 that the AL number didn't go down. But as of right now, I just got on it today. You can get Blue Jays at 7-1 to win the AL. And part of the reason why I think there's great value there on the Blue Jays, as you mentioned, Jake, they're tied right now at the top of the American League. We can now start talking about the Blue Jays not only potentially winning the AL East if they can hang on, but if they're able to do that, if they have one of the 2 best records in the league, they don't even have to play in the wild card round, which is a huge advantage when you're talking about making it through and getting to the World Series. Like, normally when things are relatively even, you'll have to win your league basically that number about half of what the World Series number was. To be honest, I would think that, because of how strong the Dodgers are, it would maybe be reversed. Like, it would be 5-1 to win the AL and 12-1 to win the World Series. But the Jays are still at 7-1. And while I'm not sure that any team is going to be able to beat the Dodgers in a best of 7, to me, the AL is so wide open right now. And the Jays are showing a lot of the characteristics of a team that can actually win these big games and do it in the playoffs. So, I'm in on the Jays. I'm having so much fun watching this team right now. And as I said, I think whether you're thinking about the division or potentially the AL, still a pretty good number on Toronto considering where they sit in the standings.
Yeah, I think the AL is much more wide open than the NL, like you said, Huss. The Dodgers are a powerhouse. I know their record doesn't really reflect that, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a really tough team to beat. But yeah, when you look at the Blue Jays right now, I mean, they just took 2 or 3 off the Yankees after sweeping them in a 4-game series. If they go in Detroit and take 3 of these next 4 games, like, someone's going to have to start taking them seriously at some point. So 7-1 for the AL pennant. I like that a lot. I think they were 8-1 when we reset the odds last week during the All-Star break. So a slight increase, but still getting a pretty solid number. And, you look at that AL East number, I think the reason why, Huss, they're now the favorites at minus 125, well, they have the season series over the Yankees right now. They also have it over Boston, a team that came on right before the break. They've kind of skidded back a little bit. And, I think Tampa, as they always do, they're still struggling against them. I think they'll see them again soon. But Yeah, they're in a really good spot to win the division. And like you said, a really good spot to pick up one of those top 2 seeds in the American League, skip out on the wild card completely, and you got a little more wiggle room with a 5-game series as opposed to that 3-game wild card series.
You know, just we asked the question. Let's do a little quick fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees. What you see is what you pay. And don't forget Bomber games now on Fans First. The team sells out every game. Sometimes that's where you got to go to find it. I see Al Camino. Love that name, Al. Addison Barger has been a revelation. He certainly has been. Now, he didn't start the season, so he has less games played than most of the others, but he's certainly in the a contender for it. Ray says Barger as well. Rick Book, Springer, Barger, and Big Uke says Kirk and those little legs can motor. Give him the MVP. I got to tell you that I keep coming back to Kirk and that Kirk deal, Jake. You want to talk about some money well spent. That deal looks better and better every single day with what Alejandro Kirk is doing for the Blue Jays. Keep your thoughts coming in on a Jays MVP in fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. You can check out the site today at fansfirst.ca. Thoughts on this series? I mean, I guess you just got to stay hot. I mean, they're catching Detroit at a good time. I mean, I don't know why Coolbetters would not be more than happy to take that plus 113 on the Jays to see if they can keep this thing rolling out of the break.
Yeah, pretty shocking to me that this number is where it is. I do have my fish meter out a little bit because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, Eric Lauer has been a pretty consistent guy over the last, 5 or 6 games here. I think he's pitched at least 5 innings in 4 of his last 6 starts. A guy you can rely on a lot more. I think he has, 5+ strikeouts in 5 of his last 6 games. He's no slouch. Yeah, he's not one of those big names in the starting rotation like Barrios or Gosman or Bassett for that matter. But at the same time, he's been just as consistent as a handful of those guys. I don't think we'll see Kirk today. I don't know if the lineup's probably out. I haven't taken a good look at it. Kirk's probably going to get the day off. But, this Detroit team's lost 9 of their last 10, Huss. If you wanted to catch them at any time, it's right now. I don't know if they're going to have a different mentality getting up for a game against, a division leader like the Blue Jays, an AL leader like the Blue Jays. But if you're not playing well, you're just not playing well. I don't know how easy it is to just turn it on and find a way. So getting some plus money tonight, I think will be nice. It does look like Skubal is in line to start Saturday now after the birth of his child, as from what I'm seeing on MLB.com.
Take care of your family, Tarek. Take care of your family. This is the time. These are moments you'll never get back. Monday is a fine time to return to the team.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Huss. If Tarek wanted to take the weekend off, it's all the power to him. But yeah, I mean, that's the game. You're probably going to be in tight against this Detroit team because he seems to get on the mound and win games just on his own, just at will. So you can pick up the first 2 in this series. You're in a great spot going into the weekend if he's starting on Saturday. And it all starts with tonight at plus money. Like you said, his number's actually gotten a little bit better as the day has gone on, which is surprising with how good the Jays have been. I believe it was plus 110 this morning, now up to plus 113. So I think keep it simple. You want a piece tonight, plus 113 on the Jays money line. And with how good they've been, I'm backing this team. I'm riding with them right now. I just want to see if they got a lineup out.
I've actually got it. I've got it right here. So Lukes is starting in center, Springer batting 2 and right, Vladdy DHing at third, Bo hitting cleanup at short, Barger's in at third, hitting fifth, Ernie Clement at second in the 6th hole, Loperfido's in left field. You're right, Kirk is getting the day off. Heineman is getting the start at catcher, and then Wagner playing first base. So it's up there right now. Lights up. Let's go. Let's see if the team can start off the. I
was going to say righty on the mound tonight for the Tigers, so it makes a lot of sense. Ton of lefty bats, and this is something we've struggled to have in the past years as well. Huss, is where are we getting the lefty bats from? Well, now Lukes has been leading off. He's been in a great spot. Then you go 3 righties in Springer, Guerrero, Bichette, Barger, the heavy left bat in the 5 hole. That's a nice spot. Clement, he's starting to pick it back up here. I love Ernie, the people's third baseman I used to call him. They got Berger at third tonight. And then Loperfido, Heineman's a switch hitter, Wagner. So that's 3 lefty hitters to start the game down in the bottom half. you're going to see some changes tonight. If they bring in a lefty in the Loperfido spot, you'll see some changes. John Schneider has been pretty solid at matching the right-handers. I was a little mad at him last night when they didn't walk Judge in that 4-2 spot wide open.
By the way, that was the funniest part of the entire game. So they don't walk Judge. He smashes it into the stands. Yeah. It's a tie game. I immediately went to my Twitter, and the first 6 tweets was you, Johnny Junta, Josh Goldberg.
Bunkus had one too.
Mike McIntyre. JD was there. Yeah. Oh, bang, 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 bang. So take it the consensus was walk Judge, but then he came up later on with first and second, and they ended up getting him out.
Well, listen, you had no problem walking him all series. You had no problem walking him in the previous series, and then you decide you want to pitch to him in a 2-run game with a guy on third. Just give him first base. Like, test your luck with the rest of the lineup. Like, don't let him be the one that hurt you. Obviously, it worked out in his favor, but even in the group chat last night at the end of the game, like, my buddy's like, Schneider bailed out again because, like, what are you thinking? Why? You've been walking him steady. It doesn't matter. Put him on first. Like, you have the defense. That's the one thing we didn't even talk about, us. Like, that defense from the Yankees last night, ugly. I don't know how. And Boone sat there and went, I think we're a pretty good defensive team. That's the craziest
Boone
part.
is losing it. Boone literally blamed the Rogers Center for how bad they were defensively. Well, and Yankee fans.
Guess what, Boone? You might be coming back here in October, so you better get used to it.
To deal with it. I did hit a nice one of the Blue Jays exclusives yesterday with Vladdy to get a hit and the Jays to win. That was up to a plus 210. What do we got for tonight? Eric Lauder to record 5 strikeouts or more in the Jays to win, plus 225. Instant classic, Jays and Tigers both to score 5 or more runs. That's intriguing at plus 355. A Barger prop, 2+ total bases, an RBI and a run for Barger, plus 375. The Heavy Hitters Club, Bichette and Springer both to record 2+ total bases and the Jays to win, plus 550. And the last one, who's your Vladdy? Vladdy to go deep and the Jays to win, plus 1050. Those are all over in the exclusive tabs on the other side. There's also some great CFL exclusives if you want to get in for tonight's game between the Stamps and the Alouettes, which, by the way, I'll quickly do a look over at the lines and how those have been moving. Calgary's moved another half point. The Stamps are now 7-point favorites over the Montreal Alouettes. The line now that Cody Fajardo is officially starting for the Elks has gone from 10 or 10.5 down to 8. So Edmonton plus 8. The Bombers have gone from 3 to 3.5. They're now 5-point favorites. And the Ticats, who were 3.5-point favorites, are now the Ticats were 3.5-point dogs. They're now 3-point dogs, although it is minus 118. So all your CFL lines are up, and we do have the CFL 110, which has gone down a little bit with the line movement, but it's still there for you with a nice boost. Now, Jake, before we go, of course, Adam Svensson, representing Coolbet on the PGA Tour, has had an up and down year, but he's never been as hot as he has been today. Well, the fellas must have been losing it this morning, checking in on Svenny going into the back 9, and then the eagle on 18 for an 11 under 60. You could not have planned out a better start to a more winnable tournament with the field in for Adam Svensson. And man, 11 under 60. I mean, one off the 59 club.
Yeah, listen, I mean, Spenny, when he's on, man, this is what his game looks like. It's really impressive. Like, he's a great ball striker when he gets going. He's just had a hard time getting it going this year. But, I picked it up a little late. I saw, one of our new guys, he was doing some social messages, and he put out, keep an eye on Svenny. He was red hot. He was bogey free early. So I jumped on her on the 13th, 14th hole. He finished strong, had like a 50-foot eagle on 18, and actually set the course record at the 3M. PGA Tour posted the clip of the eagle. If you want to go check that out, it's on Instagram and Twitter. Huge day for Svenny. 60, 11 under, like you mentioned, Huss. You should hopefully when you shoot a course record, you got the clubhouse lead into round 2. let's just hope he can keep it rolling here. We're going to keep positive vibes up. I want positive vibes in the chat. Probably going to go off tomorrow afternoon. So if you want to keep an eye on our guy Svenny, hopefully by the weekend, he's sitting in a nice spot up at the top of the 3M leaderboard, and he's in the hunt on Sunday.
Yeah, listen, he's in a great spot. I mean, he's at 11 under. Sam Stevens is at 9. Remis at 8. Brendan Valdez at 7. And Kurt Kitayama tied for 5th at 6 under par. They've all finished their rounds. The only guys that are still would have almost a sniff of getting into that neighborhood are Thorbjorn Olesen and Matt Schmidt, who are both 5 under playing the back 9. So expect Adam Svensson to be your first-round leader, and all the cool bettors and those of us here will be pulling for him
150 to 1, by the way. If anyone has a ticket, send it my way. I'd love to see that. Svensson 150 to 1 to be the first-round leader at this time.
I wish I'd got a little piece of that yesterday heading into the 3M. Jake, great stuff. And you know what? I'll just give a quick plug. We got a great start with the WST winners last week. Very quiet week with not a lot going on, but I'm going to put something together for SummerSlam because the WWE is their big event. And then we get into August. We start doing our future shows. And then I cannot wait to get the band back together with you and Pat for the weekly NFL picks. Maybe my favorite production that we do of the week. And NFL is just around the corner. I'm here to enjoy August. I mean, I don't need to get to the fall just yet, but knowing that when summer's over, as disappointing as that, the yin to the yang is that the NFL will be back and we'll be making our picks with Coolbet and the gang every week here on WST.
My girlfriend loves to fast forward summer because she loves the old pumpkin spice latte season in the fall. And I just remind her September is football time. So don't get too excited just yet. Enjoy your summer while you got it, because we are going to be planted on the couch all weekend long watching football soon enough.
Yeah, well, you're just going to have to get that form and fill out. Honey, I'm booking off every Sunday for the next 4 months. I will be unavailable most Saturday afternoons as well. And don't forget about Monday or Thursday night. So plan around that and we'll be good.
Yeah, she knows the drill.
Dude, great conversation. Enjoy the ball game tonight, and we'll do this again soon. And I can't wait to get the boys together rolling with NFL picks very soon here on the WST Winners additional content with you guys and the Coolbet team.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Huss.
Appreciate it. There's Jake Bolin Moss. Give him a follow on X, and of course at Coolbet Canada as well. Shout out to Case Lobo, actually. They were doing a follower contest on social media, and one of our WSTers was the winner of that. So Jake will send a package out to you, Case Lobo. Nicely done. All right, we're just about done for the program. Let's get Remo back in here. Remo, we've been following this all afternoon long, but the verdicts are all in right now. And we can report that all 5 former Hockey Canada players have been found not guilty of sexual assault in a London courtroom. And now the aftermath begins of a court case that has been as closely followed as any I can remember in recent Canadian history.
The judge saying they could not find EM's, the defendant's, evidence credible or reliable. And yeah, all of them found not guilty. And we'll see what happens in terms of eligibility to play in the NHL. There's some reports that they'll have to go through approval process. That
that will be the case. I know Gary Bettman and the league are going to meet on this, and there could be a suspension. There could be suspensions for all these players or eligibility requirements. I think they won't rush to do anything though on that. They're going to wait to, hear the verdicts, probably speak with lawyers and representatives, and that'll be very interesting. But to me, this trial was about 5 players that were up for this particular situation, and obviously that we have a justice system, and the judges ruled the way that they have. But to me, what we'll think about is more about the way that Hockey Canada was operating back then, and need to move forward, which the organization already has with the house cleaning and all of that, to never have this anything like this happen again, and hopefully a real reality check for what some people want to call hockey culture. That being said, I think I hope things are a hell of a lot different now than they seem to be in 2018, and this case will be a big, big part of that. Tomorrow on the program, Friday, big Friday show coming up. We're going to get ready for Bombers Argos with two great guests. Of course, our pal Jeff Hamilton will come on. And Hammer, with his work on the news side of things, we'll certainly get into some of the Hockey Canada aftermath with Jeff. He'd be about as perfect a person to talk to about this as any. And we'll really dive into what's happening with the Toronto Argonauts. Ben Grant, one of the best when it comes to covering the Canadian Football League, is going to join us as well. We'll get Hacksaw on as the NFL training camps are open. Any other hockey news if it comes by, but Blue Jays, Bombers, and everything else that's dominating the headlines in the world of sports in late July. That is going to do it for us. Thanks to all of our guests. Braxton, Kuntz, congratulations again. Good luck at the Canadian Amateur and the U.S. Amateur. Thanks to Jake. Thanks to Josh Frey-Sam. And, of course, Dennis Bernstein and Connor Rabchak. If you missed Connor, check out the videos at Winnipeg Sports Talk on the Jets' top prospects. Leave a comment with what you think as well when you're finished watching it. That's going to do it for us. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Have an awesome night tonight. Enjoy the Blue Jays, enjoy the CFL opener, and join us tomorrow for a full couple hours of sports talk, getting ready for Bombers Argos, and of course Marbles to kick off the weekend tomorrow right here on WST.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.